From the TFNB Your Bank for Life studio, this is 365 Sports. Presented by IdealMRI.com. Premium quality MRIs, convenient, affordable. That's ideal. And by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance. We are Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, your insurance provider built by Texans for Texans. And we've been protecting families in our great state since 1952. TFNB, your bank for life, serving Central Texans since 1889. Now it's time for 365 Sports.
Little nippy where we are in Central Texas. Hope you're doing well wherever you are in the country. We reach you from coast to coast. This is 365 Sports. I'm David Smoak with Paul Catalina to my left and Craig Smoak to my right, and we will break down the NCAA men's basketball tournament, glimpse a little bit at the women's tournament too, and kind of find some nuggets along the way. A couple of different guests today, including Kevin Sweeney, SI.com on the bracket, and then also Joseph Duarte on Houston, losing to Arizona, red-hot Arizona in the championship game, and yet they look like they're locked in too. Thank you for your time. Hope you had a great weekend. First of all, Craig Smoak, yesterday, happy birthday, brought part of a birthday cake back with him to the studio.
Yeah, good to be here with you guys, and hello chat to everybody else out there. And yeah, I did bring some leftover birthday cake. I'm trying to watch my girlish figure, and so I didn't want to eat all of it myself, so I thought I would offer up some to you guys, and I think I won't be walking home probably with any cake, which is the intention. So yeah, have at it and enjoy, and glad to be here and another year older. So here we go.
What is it now? 1984. So
Just
you are...
yeah.
That would be
42.
wow.
Yeah.
42.
Great 42,
Yeah.
Jackie Robinson.
Young man on the set.
Jackie
Yeah,
Robinson.
that's very true.
Yeah.
By 4 years,
Yep.
he's the youngest man on the set. So that's a whole presidential election cycle that he's young.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, my brother-in-law turned to me last year. He's like, wow, you're getting old. And I was like, yeah. And I remember that just stuck with me from last year. And then this year, now it's like it's just what it is at this point. So,
You have no idea.
he's like, does it feel like it? And I was like, no. I was like, but I don't think anybody ever feels like that necessarily. I think you just feel kind of like the way you are when you're 20-something. Your just mind maybe changes a little bit, but you're still you. So whether it's 35 or 45 or 55, yeah, there's going to be health and people and things that come and go. But yeah, I feel good, and hope to be celebrating a lot more birthdays in the future.
I had somebody ask me the other day, it's been a while, but they said, well, how old are you? And they didn't know me very well, and I told them, and they were like, man, and it's a good feeling when you feel younger or look younger than you really are, but you guys have a long way to go to worry about any of that. Well, the NCAA March Madness, the bracket is set after all the thoughts about who would get in, it came down to really a couple of different teams. And here it is, as Rez puts it up. Rez running the mothership. There's the full bracket. And again, there's a lot going on here, including playing games both tomorrow night and then Wednesday night. Then the tournament locks in and goes on, 11:07 on Thursday morning. We're going to look at some of the nuggets of this. But anything in particular, Craig and Paul, that jumped out to you, and we'll look at some of the regions, which number one seeds might have a more difficult task, but anything in particular that jumped out at either one of you?
One of the things that jumps out at me when we talk about the first four, this is one of the more intriguing ones, at least between two games for me, Texas and NC State. Texas, who deserves to be in the tournament by virtue of their quad one wins, but has not really... You know, if they had to go in and do a blind resume where Sean Miller had to do the whole thing, where he was like, all right, well, here's my thing. I bet he would leave that room being nervous, which they were, because they wound up being an 11 seed in the first four. NC State, which started out well but hasn't been playing well lately, but everybody's 0-0 right now. And then SMU, who's a really good story this year, and I don't think they would sneeze at being in the first four, except for the fact that it's a home game for Miami, Ohio, essentially. A team that we just had their coach Travis Steele on. I think that's really interesting. And I do think, when it jumps out at some of the brackets to me, the East is a bear. It's a who's who of who it is. I mean, when you go 1, Duke, 2, UConn, 3, Michigan State, 4, Kansas, 5, St. John's, 6, Louisville, and 7 UCLA, that is almost like the blue blood region right there. And I don't mean to like throw St. John's up there, but they were one of the better basketball powers back in the 80s.
What do you mean throw them up? They
like,
won the
title. Yeah, so it's just been a while for them. But if you look at like the last 40 years of college basketball success, the top 7 seeds in that are all just monsters. And then number 8 is just some piddly little team called Ohio State.
Yeah.
Number 9 is TCU. So it's all brand names.
TCU can beat most of those teams when they're playing the way they have been, although they didn't finish in the Big 12 tournament. By the way, real quick, Texas beat NC State earlier this year to non-conference game 102-97, so that's a rematch, and they try not to do that unless conference teams eventually meet each other. Craig, your thoughts?
Yeah, I have not gone probably as deep as some of the real hoop heads out there on a lot of this stuff. So my initial just kind of glance at the bracket late last night when I got some time to finally look at it was, just kind of taking it all in. And I think I sense, is Paul over there setting himself and his wife up to not be disappointed when talking about that particular region? Because I think if you don't look too far down, there is a Kansas Jayhawks team that is going to be staring straight at St. John's potentially, and not too far after that, Duke or TCU or Ohio State.
Here's what I believe. I am more optimistic than probably anybody who follows Kansas. I've heard more negativity out of that fan base all year long. I've been more right about it than they are because I can detach myself from it as through marriage. But the NCAA tournament is more about stars than the regular season is. And the more that we get to a more professional sports type model in college athletics, it is going to favor teams like Duke and Kansas, particularly in that region, in that Duke has top 5 picks, lottery picks. Kansas has maybe the best all-around player in the country, offensive and defensively, and the number 1 overall pick in Darren Peterson. So in these tournaments, it can be a lot about, I think about Kemba Walker. Like, if this one guy, if Cam Boozer gets so hot that no one can do anything about them, how are you going to beat Duke? The same side on Arizona. If one of those dudes, whether it's Bradley or Pete or Burries, gets so insanely hot that you can't do anything about it, like Kemba Walker did, like so many other lottery picks did.
Carmelo Anthony, Danny Manning.
Like those guys, when you have one of those guys, to me, you can take the seeding and almost erase it. Whether you're a 1 seed, a 5 seed, or a 7 seed, if you have a dude that can take it over and your bracket is pretty favorable, and for Kansas, it's not as favorable as, say, another Big 12 team on the other side, Iowa State. Iowa State's had some things that have happened to the other teams around them that maybe benefit them, but I don't think that they should be as scared as they would be in any normal year because of the lineup that they have.
Iowa State's got a great opportunity to win their first game and then have a shot at Kentucky, and a Kentucky team who is very much not Kentucky of the 70s or their glory days or whatever you want to point to.
10 years ago,
Yeah, I mean,
they had a team 10 years ago that was undefeated. I know what you're saying, though. Yeah.
I just, they've kind of been up and down, but their years of just being the dominant, no doubt about it type of force. I think this is a year where you definitely say, well, that's certainly not the case whatsoever. So I think a prime opportunity for Iowa State when you just look at them to see, hey, yeah, you should win your first game, should being the key word, and then a great crack at a program like Kentucky, who is very vulnerable. But you will see with the matchups when they get to that point. I do think the East jumps out when you see just the name teams that are in that bracket, starting off with Florida, who is arguably the best team, but then to keep on, or not Florida, that was in the South, but starting off with Duke as arguably the best team in the tournament, and UConn, and Michigan State, and Kansas, and St. John's, and Louisville, and I mean that region's going to be feisty, man. I'm looking forward to that one. That's going to be a lot of great basketball being played, but I think it's just a lot of fun to have it here. I mean, the conference tournaments are great. I know we're going to talk a little bit about those, but nothing really beats getting that bracket put out and getting your first glimpse at it and trying to figure out, okay, which upsets am I taking and which should I take? How many upsets should I take?
You got to be careful.
That's just fun to do, and so that's kind of where my head immediately went, was not so much about, all right, if St. John's wins this one and that one. It was more about, just kind of being thrilled to have March Madness here.
I filled mine out already. And by the way, later on, and hopefully by tomorrow, we'll have a locked-in link and even a code word and all that other good stuff for you to join us. And you compete against us, and then we keep you up to date, as you will as well, when it comes to the tournament and the bracket that we fill out. But I filled mine out yesterday pretty quickly. And there's some trends of why this seemed to be easier, even though that doesn't mean that's what it's going to be when the tournament begins.
Can I tease the prize that has no cash but plenty of emotional value?
Yeah.
Okay, so every person who beats one of us in the tournament, at least me and Smokey. Craig was in Tyler, so he didn't get to hear this. But
no, he has to do this too.
Smokey and I agreed to this. We will do a short video, and we will we'll just list out everybody who beat us. So congratulations,
Bracket Cat,
or whoever beats us, and we'll do that so that you will have this in perpetuity of, I'm smarter than these jackasses that claim to be experts in the field.
Yeah, and that's it. That's simple, and that way we can have fun together, talking a little trash as well. Yeah. All right, now here's a couple of the nuggets on the bracket. Then we're going to get to some trends, etc. The SEC ended up with 10, 9 for Big Ten, 8 for both the Big 12 and the ACC. It was down to Auburn and Oklahoma at the end, and Miami of Ohio was one of those that slipped in, the last of the at-large bids. If Houston wins their first 2 games this week, the next weekend is at the Toyota Center in Houston, right there, of course, in their backyard. The absolute last at-large was Miami of Ohio, but they weren't the last team to get in the tournament. The way they put this thing all together. But Miami of Ohio will open up with SMU tomorrow, and NC State will open with Texas as the 2 play-in games the 2 of the play-in games both Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah, I saw the note about Miami of Ohio where they're technically not the last team in, but they were announced as the last team in.
They were the 31st of 31 at large.
Yeah, so it was the announcement order, but they weren't technically that on the edge where they were the very last call, nor should they have been. I mean, we talked about this. I can't even imagine how many shows that really just wanted to dive into this controversy, spent a great amount of time on this when it was just very simple to me of you lost 1 game. I get the whole schedule wasn't as hard as it is for Auburn or Texas or whoever, but I mean, I think that conversation and that whole topic was not that complicated and pretty easy to just kind of go, they lost 1 game and it was in the conference tournament at the end of the year. All right, cool, we move on and we keep it pushing. And so I'm glad to see they got in the tournament without much controversy. I guess you can digest the number of bids per conference how you choose to. I know there's some pushback on, well, at least from some Big 12 fans that inevitably cross my feed of, why does the SEC have the most? They're down this year. They're getting the benefit of the doubt again, although Auburn didn't get in, Oklahoma didn't get in. So it's not like they got their way entirely. But Texas was another one of those kind of bubble-ish teams. They had big wins, though, in the season, and so I don't think that one was much of a question. But, yeah, they still had the most despite some close calls with Auburn and OU. And we'll see, man. I mean, it's fun to talk about, and it is important, I think, to have bragging rights along the way of you had this many teams, you had the most teams. Ultimately, all anybody's going to remember is who won the national championship. So last year, the Big 12 was great, but Florida won the national title. That's all that mattered.
Yep.
So if you have 3 teams in the tournament, but one of those 3 wins the tournament, that's better for your conference than saying, well, we had the most teams when it started.
Yeah.
That's a cool little feather in your cap, but what matters is who's standing tall at the end.
Considering that there's a greater mathematical certainty that you'll all be out before the first weekend ends than one of you winning it. I mean, It's so hard to do that even if you have the most in it, if you have 10 of the 68 teams. I do think that this year is unique and it stands out in that when you look at the first 4 out, I don't think any of them had a really good argument to say we got screwed. I really just don't. Auburn was
Bruce Pearl told me that. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. And Bruce Pearl got in his little shot at the end, which was the only time he really
eventually
did
say Miami of Ohio should get in.
But he didn't say over Auburn, but he
said they should be in. It has to be over somebody.
Yeah, but my point being with Bruce was. I'm sure that was hard for him to watch, because he'd been so outspoken about it. But he's like, they had the number 1 schedule in the country. I don't think they were rewarded for it. Yeah, but they also didn't play up to that schedule. They lost 16 games. So, yes, they had 3 good wins, but they also had a bunch of losses to those teams. So while you say, yes, they had 3 good wins, they had way more saying that they would lose on the first weekend, so why put them in? So that's what I think, and I think the committee weighed that out as like, you're also like, okay, these wins maybe qualify you more than somebody else who has the same number or less of those quad 1 wins. But if you have a litany of quad 1 losses, then what you were saying is also like, yeah, we've got a couple of these wins, but those are more outliers than our losses. Like it was tilted in way the other direction for Auburn. That's why they didn't get in. And I even don't think that losing to Ole Miss had anything to do with it. I think I don't think that was the final nail in the coffin. I think that was the dirt.
Yeah, they had to win out. Ole Miss, of course, had to win out because they were under 500 badly entering the tournament. They couldn't even get to 500 if they ended up winning the SEC, which they got to that point but did not win at all. Here are the top 16 seeds to try to put up a few things where you can look at it, grab it. If you haven't looked at it this way, in the East you have Duke, UConn, Michigan State, KU. In the West, Arizona, red hot. We'll discuss them more at length in a minute. Purdue, Gonzaga, and Arkansas, they won the SEC title. And then Florida, Houston, Illinois, and Nebraska. Nebraska has never won a game in the men's NCAA tournament, ever. They haven't been a part of it a lot, but they've been in it enough they have never won a game. Michigan, Iowa State, Virginia, and Alabama. And a note on Alabama's second leading scorer here in a moment. Those are the top 4 seeds in each of the 4 regions.
Yeah, when we get to that, I have another note about Iowa State that I'd like to get to on that part of the bracket. But yeah, I think you could move things around slightly in all of this. I thought that because Arkansas won the SEC, maybe they should have been a line higher. But again, they're one of those teams that I think could win the whole thing because they've got a guy named Darius Acuff who can take over games. And when you have, especially when you have matchups, a 4-13 that they should have, he could get hot really early and confident really early and then watch out for everybody else. So I think you could shift things around just a little bit, but for the most part, I haven't heard a lot of people saying the committee didn't get all this right.
Yeah, I think, that East region looks just really salty with blue bloods, man. I mean, Duke, UConn, Michigan State's been there, done that more than one occasion. Kansas, that's going to be a really, really fun part of the bracket. And good to see the Big 12 well represented, as you were kind of wondering what the seeds were going to shake out like. But I think a nice swath of just a lot of fun brands from across the country. And how about Nebraska? I mean, to be in a top 4 seed spot in one of the regions, just kind of, I mean, for me, out of nowhere, I don't know if there was a lot of basketball preseason talk about, hey, I think Nebraska is going to be a top seed in March. No. If I missed that, I missed that, admittedly, but that's just cool as hell to see that. I mean, it's especially against the backdrop of, I mean, every single one of these other programs is pretty well accomplished in basketball. I mean, Alabama's not necessarily who you think of first, but I mean, Florida, national champion, Houston, perennially in the mix, Illinois, Michigan, Iowa State hasn't reached the mountaintop, but you know how much it means to them. That's a lot of great basketball programs.
They're the only one on those 16. You're right. Alabama could be 2. Yeah. That has no real history and tradition of anything when it comes to men's basketball.
Yeah. So that kind of jumps out to me of just like, yeah, this is bluey and basketball obsessed programs all over these top 16 seeds right here. So, yeah, this is going to be fun, man. I can't wait. I mean, at any given point over the last month, I've heard that Duke was the best team in the country. I've heard that Florida was the best team in the country. I've been told Michigan was the best team in the country. I've heard that Arizona was the best team in the country. And I'm probably forgetting one or two. Hell,
I think
Evan Miyakawa said Purdue's maybe hitting the hottest. Like, they're hitting it right at the right time with what they have on their roster, that they could be really, really dangerous. So, and then, I mean, UConn, Houston, we know how they handle their business. So, yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun.
We're going to show you another graphic, not next, but another graphic about those who are used to being in the NCAA tournament. Evan Miyakawa did put this out this was yesterday evening. If you are among the top here are the most likely, and if not most likely, yeah, there we are. Here's expected odds to win it all. Duke, Michigan, Arizona, Houston, and then Florida, and those two played for the national title a year ago. Houston losing after leading that game or controlling what seemed like that game forever, and then just running out of gas. Florida winning it all with Golden, their head coach. But those are the five with the best odds to win it, to win the national title as we enter the tournament starting this week.
Yeah, like I said a second ago, I mean, every one of these five teams I've heard at some point in the last 5 or 6 weeks that they were the favorite. So, it makes sense that these five are kind of, I would think, head and shoulders above the rest as far as who most of the money is going towards and where the percentages are more favorable. But, I mean, hard to say, no, I don't think Boozer and company are going to get it done. Like, hell yeah, they look ferocious. He's an absolute monster. Michigan's been very good all year. Arizona's been great all year. Houston's been super solid all year. Florida, again, has had their runs and their moments. And so, that's a pretty salty top five. I mean, you said you filled out your bracket. Who'd you go with? Or do you want a surprise reveal at the end of the week, or how did you want to handle
I'll give
that?
it to you. Let's get through some of these nuggets. But, yeah, I'll give you mine. Mine last year was my best year ever. I finished very high, even nationally. But here's why I have not, and most people don't do very well. There's no graphic here. This is just a couple of nuggets. Among the top 16 seeds, now Florida and Michigan don't know who they're going to play yet because they're going to play somebody in a play-in game, winner. From Arizona down to the lowest of the fourth seed, which is Nebraska. Each of those 14 teams are favored at one point earlier today by 13.5 points each or better, up to 31.5 for Arizona and LIU Brooklyn. That is the biggest and most intense spread of favorites in the top 16 seeds in NCAA men's basketball history. And that's when you try to find that 15-2, that, what was it? Is
11-6 now.
11-6. And, well, you're not going to get to that because these are the top four seeds. So the 12-5, 11-6 still not affected. But massive spreads among the top 14 seeds that we know who they're going to play, waiting for the play-in games on Tuesday and Wednesday.
Yeah, so immediately what comes to mind for me is we definitely should expand this tournament.
Oh, yeah, and you should see who would have been in had they done it. It was
Auburn would have been in. Oklahoma would have been in.
Arizona
State would have been in. A bunch of teams that were on that cut line would have been in. But, yeah, let's expand the tournament when we've now reached the point where it's as lopsided as it's ever been between the top and bottom seeds. Look, we know they're not trying to push that for the betterment of the game, for a better product for the fan. They are just trying to, like everybody else in this country, grab as much money as they possibly can while they can, when they can. And so that's what that is. But, yeah, I think that's interesting that conversation is against the backdrop of this is the most lopsided favorites we've ever had in the first round. Now, I guess that'll make Cinderella super special that whoever that is, if there is that type of team, that they'll be going up against higher odds than normal to be able to pull off some of those upsets. Not that everything goes down that way, but the lower versus higher seeds, the more lopsided that is. It does seem as unlikely as it typically would be, even more lopsided now. So I guess that'll make those upsets, if they occur, as unlikely as they may be, just that much more of a big statement. But, I think there's been that conversation ongoing for a while now about the top and the bottom and the kind of cliff that resides between those two. And I guess the expectation from at least Vegas's perspective, although they're not like just predicting game by game, there's a little bit of intentionality with how spreads work and things like that to get what they want ultimately. But it seems to be that those odds are reflecting that, yeah, this is very much top heavy versus having some big time upset spoiler type teams there at the bottom of the rankings.
Yeah, and I think about UMBC beating Virginia a few years ago, and part of that, and the reason it happened, it's happened, another time after that, is finally somebody can believe. But the reason that one in particular happened in Virginia was maybe they went on and won the thing the next year, but Tony Bennett built an entire elite program on the idea that you don't have to score a lot of points to win a game. And because of that, like the one thing that they didn't do well was exploited in the one time that it had never happened before. But I think now, especially when you have NIL funding the chasm so much more and it's all out in the open now, it's going to be a lot harder for those things to happen. But at the same token, I do think that because of that, there's going to be certain stars at certain places, but you could see some 15-2 upsets just because some of those guys haven't been bought yet. They haven't been bought to the other level. And like I said before, if you've got a guy that no one can stop, that's kind of what matters.
I just wonder how many of those guys exist at this point that haven't been picked over and picked up. And so, good news for anybody who's going to be the next God Sham God or just random name that becomes famous in March is not only will you be the new poster child for Cinderella in 2026, but you'll probably get a big fat contract offer from multiple teams if you do well. The motivation for the smaller schools has never been higher from an individual player perspective because this is literally the world's greatest job resume for a college basketball player.
There are guys on these lower seeded teams that will be on Power 5 rosters next year. Bottom line, because they have great tournaments. Look, Bucky McMillan. There's too many Buckies at Texas A&M. Bucky McMillan at Samford, his whole roster got rated after that year. And now he's got some of them back there at A&M. But, Kansas State, everybody kind of took those guys. So, there's a Samford out there that's got a bunch of guys that can do a lot of things that roster will be decimated going into next year.
All the 15 seeds are 25.5, 24.5, 23.5, and 20.5 point underdogs. But they've been underdogs before and not expected to win. But again, the point spread right now, they are extremely wide. Now, Ken Palm, it's yet another analytics. These are right there. Evan Miyakawa, that's the graphic that we have up right now. These are not predicting the upsets, but these are the largest percentage, if in fact there were going to be upsets among the seeds between, for example, the 9 seed, Utah State, Wisconsin, or Villanova, excuse me. That is the percentage, and they have Utah State as a favorite against Villanova, and all the other ones are not. And they are the most likely, for example, Akron to beat Tech. That's chatter out there, and that's where they would be the highest or the most likely if there's an upset of a 12-5. It would be Akron and the Red Raiders.
Akron shoots really well.
Yeah, no, and that's in that same conference with Miami of Ohio, etc. Now, Ken Palm, no graphic on this one, but this has been fact for the last 15 or 20 years. If you are a part of both the top 25 in average offensive and average defense efficiency, if you put together 2 circles and everybody's in one circle for defense, everybody's in one circle for top 25 offensive efficiency, and if anyone's in both, one of these teams, mark it down, will win the national title. Arizona, Florida, Duke, Houston, Louisville, Iowa State, Michigan State, and Michigan. There's a lot of teams that are not included here. This is a track of about 20 years where one of these teams, guaranteed based on the trending for 20 years, will win the national title.
The term you're looking for there is Venn diagram, Smokey. I know that they maybe didn't have those in the dark ages.
Yeah, this is my.
It's a Venn diagram.
Yeah, there you go.
So in the Venn diagram in the middle,
like a weather pattern.
I know that you guys used abacus.
Raz, one more time.
When you were in math class,
this would have been oh, okay. I thought you were going to shoot the screen. Okay. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But those are the teams. There's some good teams that are not listed, but those are the teams based on the Venn diagram who are going to win. Those 8 teams are going to win the national. One of those 8 teams will win the national championship this year. Now, can you name the last time the Big Ten's had a heck of a year? Michigan, Michigan State, obviously teams that are very, very good. Purdue. Can you name the last time a Big Ten team won the national title?
Well, it was Michigan State in 2009, whatever that was.
25 years ago, Michigan State won with Izzo, the second one, because Magic Johnson and that team won it back against Bird in the late 70s. It's been 25 years for the Big Ten to win a national title. 5 years. The last time that somebody on the West Coast or West time zone won a national title, the most ever is UCLA, we know that, was 97 Arizona when they were on the time West. 97, the last time anybody west of like El Paso won the national title. Those are two droughts to watch for, to see. And Arizona, we know, is very good. Michigan State's pretty salty too.
If Arizona is at full strength, like if Jaden Bradley's wrist isn't all that bad and he came back and played in the game on Saturday after he got banged up a little bit.
It was perfectly fine on Friday at the last second to win that game with Iowa State.
But if Jaden Bradley is healthy at all, and I think that he probably is, but I don't know how you can contend with that team. They can beat you so many different ways with their top 7 players. And they play about 9 guys compared to some that just play 7 or 8. They play about 9 guys. They're always fresh. And their top 4 or 5 guys can just beat you in so many different ways. They don't need to have, 2 or 3 hot hands at once. Somebody can take over the game. Jaden Bradley being the player of the year in the Big 12, when you have 2 super stud NBA lottery pick freshmen on your team, shows you how good that guy is. And all of those different things, I think that they're going to be the toughest out of anybody. Not to say that they can't be beat. They were beaten twice this year in a row. But, man, they just look like they're head and shoulders above a lot of teams.
Their 2 losses, and Craig, talk about their performance. They almost looked like they were about to pop Houston pretty badly, and then Houston kept grinding back. Their 2 combined losses are 7 points at KU and home against Tech when Tech got them by 3. And they end up doubling up as regular season and also conference tournament champions.
No, they're very, very good. And Jaden Bradley, that's why you were Big 12 Player of the Year. All I could think about was the whole to-do about who deserved Big 12 Player of the Year as that shot went in against Iowa State. And it's like, that's a Big 12 Player of the Year right there. The guy that hits a crucial shot to win the game to send you into the next stage. And, they are very deep and talented and can hit you from a lot of different ways, as Paul mentioned. So I didn't ever think about it too much about when their last national title was. I remember growing up seeing them win national titles, but I hadn't really in my head thought, when was the last time they won one? So to hear that's 1997 and Lute Olson, man, I can only imagine how starved for a title Arizona fans are, given that it's been nearly 30 years now at this point since that title, which also makes me feel old because I vividly remember them winning that title. But, I didn't realize it had been that long. If you had pressed a gun to my head and said, when's the last time I would have just randomly guessed, probably when I wasn't paying as much attention back right after high school, 2006 or something they probably won it. I just wasn't following that closely. But no, it's been since '97, so that's pretty crazy that it's been that long for them.
Jason Terry was the star on that team.
Yeah, and he's come and gone, had a whole ass NBA career, won titles, and was on my favorite basketball team of all time, the Mavericks, that won the title for the first time in franchise history, led by Dirk Nowitzki. So I'll forever be grateful to the Jet for his contributions to that team. But that's a much longer drought than I would have guessed off of the top of my head. And what was the other thing that you said? The Big Ten.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense. Michigan State's kind of the same way as Arizona for me. If you had asked when's the last time Michigan State won a title, I would have assumed it would have been in the last 5 to 10 years. But that's a lot longer of a drought than I thought it was for them, actually. So there's some streaks that could be broken. Outside of those 2, I'm sure there's plenty of other examples of teams that have something similar going on, but those are 2 pretty high profile and interesting streaks that are alive heading into this one.
All right, we're going to have in a moment Kevin Sweeney, SI.com, had some real good nuggets and columns since yesterday. He'll join us today in a few minutes, and then at 4:25, Joseph Duarte on Houston as they had hit the tournament coming off last year's national championship game and lost to Florida. Let's go to consecutive streaks in the tournament. 36. Now, we kind of touched on this last week when there was the note about who's had the most wins, etc. KU has been 36 times, and then Michigan State, these are in a row. Michigan State, 28. That dates back to when they won it in 2000 and a year or two before that. Gonzaga, 27. Purdue 11, and then you have a large chunk of a lot of people, of course, 8 down to 1, a massive number making their first appearance, at least in a row. Doesn't mean their first appearance overall. But there we have with the blue blood of KU at the very top. I got a note about Kansas I want to let you know about. I got this from Chris Fallica, the what's his name, the Bear. Where is it about KU? Damn it, I had it here. I'll find it. It's a note about Kansas when they haven't been ranked among the top 4 seeds. And I'll bring that up here in just a second when I find it. Now, here's also a note about Alabama, Aiden Holloway. He's a guard. He averages nearly 17 points per game. He was arrested this morning by Tuscaloosa police for what is being called, they recovered a pound of marijuana, paraphernalia, and cash. He's 21, first-degree possession of marijuana, and failure to affix a tax stamp, which I looked up, and that means you have to be taxed on illegal drugs. Is that right? In Alabama, they tax you for illegal drugs. So if you're going to make money, they still want part of that if you can get away with not claiming it. So I don't know how you get taxed if you can't claim it, but he is the second leading scorer. Alabama's Aiden Holloway arrested. I had to ask, I'm sorry, but I had to ask Garrett, how much, besides the weight of a pound, that seems to me an inordinate amount of marijuana.
It's about $3,000 on the high end of street value for that one thing. I think the thing that jumps out, if guys are making 6 figures in NIL, why do you need to do this in a state where it's illegal now and run the risk? I think the other question, because we have not heard from Nate Oates yet. And remember, this is not the first time he has had players run afoul of the law and shoehorn them into the lineup in spite of people saying, like, why can't you just wait until it's clear? And that was a murder case. So this one, while a felony, still not the same kind of felony as murder. So I wonder what his mind is trying to do to maybe get this, because this is Aiden Holloway's the second leading scorer. It's about 17 points a game that they're not going to have. Bringing it back to Iowa State, this is another one of the reasons I think that Iowa State is kind of lucking out here because, look, that's the 4 seed. So if you get to the second weekend, there's a chance that you could see them. That's the 4 seed that they have. The 5 seed is Tech, whose best player is already out, and second best player hurt himself on the television screen the other night, and we don't know if he's going to be at completely full speed.
He's been cleared.
Okay,
I thought that he's
been cleared, but is he going to be at full speed?
Yeah.
So, like, those things have all happened kind of around them. So as a 2 seed, they've got a good shot. But Aiden Holloway, this is just – and, again, I'm not going to judge you on marijuana the same way. It just doesn't seem like all that smart of a crime to commit, given the fact that you're making some fat stacks anyway.
Yeah, I guess my first thing is we don't know what he's making, though, Paul.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he could be making a lot of money. He could be making not that much money, and regardless of what he's making, we got billionaire politicians and business owners who don't want a poor kid to have, like, a donut for free.
Yeah, that's
because
true.
it would take 5 cents out of their pocket. So never enough for some people. And so for Aiden Holloway, whether he's making $100,000 or $50,000, if he can make another $50,000 or $500 a month or whatever the hell he is making off of this enterprise I would not know the first thing about, then he's I guess one of those types of people that just needs more and more and more, or gets the thrill from it, or I don't know. I guess we'll see after the investigation, what all that turns into. But, yeah, the timing obviously couldn't be worse. And at the same time, it's Nate Oates, so I'm inclined to feel like maybe he'll be suspended until the first whistle of the first tournament game, because I just don't have a lot of faith or belief that that they're just going to come down super hard on this until we know a lot more about it, nor should they. So they'll get the details, and then we'll see what's what and can kind of comment from there. But pretty embarrassing, and you would think that if you were a high-level college basketball player who's probably making some substantial NIL money, I don't know about 6 figures or anything, but let's say he's making $75,000 or something, then I think going and selling drugs on the side is about one of the dumber things you could do. So we'll see what happens, I suppose. If the charges get dropped, then we'll forget about it and everybody moves on and it's no big deal. But the felony part, I mean, anytime you hear that, that's always a little scary. Whenever you hear felony, no matter how many times drug dealer aficionado on Twitter, like Bubbles32, tells you like, no, that's not that big of a charge, speaking from experience. But I don't know. I hear felony, and I'm going, that sounds like it could be bad.
Didn't felony mean you can't vote if you get convicted of a felony?
Depends on the state.
Yeah,
Most of the states.
So here's one of the notes. It's an older law that they put in place like in the 80s to be able to seize assets from big-time dealers. It's a legal relic of the cocaine cowboys era. I even interviewed, this is from Ryan Phillips who responded to this, I even interviewed one guy who manages the stamps for the state. So you get taxed on illegal drugs. So how do you get...
Oh, don't try to make sense.
I know we got to get to our guest.
You're trying to make sense of it.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
Okay, all right. IRS requires you to pay income taxes on sales of illegal drugs.
Yeah, but I think where your brain's not
good
connecting is they're not going, hey, I've got some weed I'm selling. Make sure you tax me on this. They're selling it, and then the government's saying, oh, you sold that, and now we want our share of that.
Yeah, now we
That's
want,
what
on
it
top
is.
of the fact you're going to maybe get convicted.
It's also another charge that they have to negotiate their way plea.
Yeah, for any kind of plea deal. Okay.
So, I mean, that couldn't be more embarrassing timing-wise, but we'll see. Like, these legal cases, man, at first glance, you just never, especially with stuff like the drug charges, like, we don't know what'll come of that. But, yeah, it was not a good look for him or for Alabama.
Yeah, there's people having field days on this one.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, and, oh, by the way, later on, we're going to look at Arizona, what they accomplished so far this year, record-breaking in a lot of ways, and K-State introduced their new head coach. Kevin Sweeney from SportsIllustrated.com is next. This is 365 Sports. Petty Clinic, LowT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, and used to be as you get older. It's part of Father Time. It's part of you being one out of every 3 or 4 men with symptomatic issues that your low T level is dropping, testosterone. And when it does, you can be lethargic. You can be, your focus is bad. Like I mean, listen, I'm the king of ADHD, attention deficit, but it has nothing to do with low T. I've been doing that, had that problem forever. It could be your sexual performance if it hasn't already affected your sexual, your drive. So all of these things, sleep habits, can happen if your low T level drops. Dr. Petty, contact him, pettycliniclowt.com. Tell him I sent you. They will set you up to get an appointment. So you get your blood work. They get the results. They get back in touch with you and give you the option to increase your T level at pettycliniclowt.com.
As my go-to guy, can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
Do you have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a G-Fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
It's time to compete against yourself, finding too many excuses not to work out combined with bad eating habits, and Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness can help reach inside your competitive soul. Discipline, getting results you've only dreamed about, personal training, group exercise classes, and even a tanning bed, world-class tennis facility, and pickleball courts and lessons available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness, spacious, clean workout rooms, free weights, state-of-the-art technology, weight training equipment, and no intimidation. It's time for you to react today, not tomorrow, at Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
When you play hard, sometimes you fall hard. Sports injuries require special treatment. At Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, our team of expert doctors provides athletes and active adults with comprehensive sports medicine care, diagnostics. Whether you're in high school, college, or beyond, we'll help you get back on the field. Call on the team physicians for Baylor Athletics. Call Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics.
Whatever it is you wrangle,
whatever seeds you sow. No matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
You got batteries for my side-by-side?
Yes.
Replace my flashlight?
Sure thing. What about my business?
Ooh, good one.
100%. Batteries for my fleet of trucks?
Got floor scrubbers?
Yes, and fire panels.
We have pallets of batteries.
Well, what about...
As your go-to guy, if it needs a battery, we have it.
Well, that's all you had to say.
Could have led with that.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
This 3 o'clock hour is brought to you by QC Kinetics. Feel better, move better, live better with regenerative medicine using your body's own healing abilities for natural pain relief. No surgery, no drugs, no downtime. With locations in Dallas and Houston at QCkinetics.com. Now it's time for 365 Sports.
Here we go, rolling along to the 3 o'clock hour. We appreciate your time. If you have not hit the like button, please do. 365 Sports. Kevin Sweeney. We've had Kevin on, basketball writer for Sports Illustrated, SI.com and SI Now. He joins us on the show, and men's basketball tournament has been set. Kevin, and I know there's maybe a dozen, but anything in particular when you saw the bracket come out, was there something that struck you, 2 or 3 things immediately once you saw it? Kevin, you there? Okay. I guess not. All right, we'll try to set him up. I don't think he's hearing us on 365 Sports. We'll try to get that if we can. Hey, here's a note on some of the teams in the tournament that I got from Bear from Fox Sports. Virginia hasn't won a tournament game since they won the national title in 2019. They lost the opening round by 25 a year ago, and was upset as a number 4 seed both in 2021 and 2023. So they finally broke through, won it all, and then they have been in this kind of like one and out mode since that time. Akron, a team that we're hearing could be dangerous in playing Texas Tech. They have not won an NCAA tournament game. They're 0-8 lifetime, and they lost in the round of 64 as both a 13 and 14 seed by 28 and 17 points. But because Tech has had a couple of, they had some aches, pains, and bruises, Akron is a team that a lot of people feel like might get them in the first round.
Yeah, I mean, there's got to be some spots for upset bids, and so I could see where Tech, particularly if they're not shooting the ball very well, could be a team, especially given the matchup, not just against anybody, but against a team like Akron who might be a little bit dangerous, then yeah, you can see the recipe for why that might be a tasty pick to make to see where we could find some upsets. So, yeah, I'm sure Texas Tech will be well prepared. I have no doubt about that, but that is a game that has, over the last 24 hours, definitely caught my attention as far as the number of people pointing out that Akron has some much better odds than a lot of the others, as we were talking about a few minutes ago. Not a lot of hope just based off looking at the spreads and the lower seeds doing much. But Akron is a team that kind of goes against that, and man, that'd be awful for Tech. But yeah, I'm not going to pick Akron to beat them. It's a little bit too obvious for me. But maybe that's why it is obvious. Maybe that's why it is obvious for some for that to be the easy pick to make for an upset. But, yeah, Tech is a really good team, has had a great year. The JT Toppin thing still just bumps me out to no end. Yep. And I know you got to get over it and move past it, and they have. But just as a commentator, it just sucks from just the watching standpoint to not have a good team like that could potentially be a great team, not have their full muscle. So
yeah.
He'll be back next year, though, apparently. So that's good. Not that he's made that announcement, but just based on what you guys told me, he doesn't really have NBA.
He was listed. You're talking about Toppin, right?
Yeah.
He was listed as somebody that would be late first round, early second round, but you would think now because of the injury and how long it will take for him to heal, that may be better for him to stay on campus, get right, and then play one more year.
Right. I got. I had the thought in my head that he was going to be done. Like that was it for him at Texas Tech. But no, then y'all very quickly pointed out, and I saw some others talking about, he's not like a really highly thought of draft prospect. He'll get an opportunity. He'll get picked if he's in there, but he's not a lottery pick. And I don't know how much he can change that with another year of ball. But, yeah, I just assume now because of that he'll be back, and so he'll get a crack at it. But this Texas Tech team's still plenty good, and if they're shooting the ball well, then I think they've got a chance to hang in there with just about anybody. So that'll be a fun little matchup, since that's one that a lot of people seemingly have kind of focused on as far as being the upset pick du jour.
The Christian Anderson, by the way, Tech, the young man, the guard, a really good player who went down that floor and all the issues they had with the court up in Kansas City until they flipped it on Friday. Left the second half. We know that. Not 100%, but expected to suit up. It remains to be seen, however, how long he will be able to go. And with the downtime, and this is all about trying to make sure whatever gets tight or swollen, that it all gets fixed, or at least physical therapy and more between now and when they open up the tournament. He's a hell of a player. They obviously, it hurts enough to lose Toppin and then maybe not 100% with Christian Anderson. Here's a note. I didn't realize this. Since 2007, they're efforting to try to get us locked in with Kevin Sweeney. Only one defending national champion has advanced past the Sweet 16 when Connecticut did it, when they repeated as national champions in 2024. Not one team since 2007, other than UConn in 23 and 24, won the national title and then got into the Elite Eight or past the Sweet 16, which to me is pretty amazing that teams have won and then just not been able to get over the edge or over the hump deep into the tournament the following year.
Man, this is the nerdiest tournament of all time with all these stats. There's so many stats to unpack and trends and things like that. This really is the end all be all big dance of things like that. So I mean that's another one to unpack. I don't know what you attribute that to, other than that's just kind of how it's worked out. Maybe the fact that when you win a title and you've got probably older players, I would think, or star players that help you go and do that, then they're not long to come back and return the next year to do the same thing all that often, that they graduate or they enter the NBA draft. And so you don't really just reload year after year. So it makes it a little bit more difficult to do, maybe. I don't know. I'm trying to rationalize why that may be the case outside of it's just a thing that happens, and there's been a lot of teams that win. And I think the follow-up, though, to not get quite into the Sweet 16 is probably something, at least a little something to do with if you won the national title, then you lost some really good players.
Yeah, guys may have gone and played even if they were, one and done, or just guys that went on to play in the NBA, or they were seniors that they were an aged team and they all left.
I would think Florida's going to break that trend. I think it'd be pretty shocking if they don't get to the Sweet 16. I guess I need to take a look at. I have not memorized the bracket yet, folks. So give me a little bit of a moment to kind of search through here. So yeah, they'll await their winner of the play-in game, and then Clemson, Iowa. I think you feel like you could probably get to the Sweet 16 if you're Florida, and you could be a part of that breaking or adding on to the UConn metric there of being one of those teams to have done that here of late. So, yeah, I think Florida's probably set up really well to do that because, I don't know. I don't want to speak out of turn and just BS the people out there, but I haven't heard much about Clemson or Iowa for that matter, and I've heard a lot about Florida. So I think they'd be pretty heavy favorites once they get past that playing game and will find themselves in the Sweet 16. Maybe up against Nebraska ball, who, if they were to make it to the Sweet 16, would be such a great story. I'm really curious how they do.
I'd love to just win a game, and I think they open up against like Troy, but just break that where you've never won a game in the tournament. We saw them over a decade ago down in San Antonio when they were in the tournament, and Baylor beat the living hell out of them in the game down in San Antonio. Rick Pitino. Is anything on Kevin?
I'm trying to get him at a later time. He had another segment to do. I'm not completely sure what's going on.
Rick Pitino is 18-1 in the round of 64 as a 6 seed or better. The only loss came in 2011. They were a 13 seed. When they lost a 13 seed Morehead State, St. John's hasn't reached the Sweet 16, though, since 1999. So it's been over a quarter of a century, but he is 18-1 when his teams are seeded 6 or better, so you don't see them getting upset in the opening round.
Yeah, he's done a really good job there, and fun guy to follow and watch. I think St. John's is a really good team, and I think they seem to have like the momentum at their side, or just kind of the maybe momentum's not the right word. It's kind of, they have a groove going where I think that if it not for the fact that they were going to play Kansas in the second round, most likely that maybe Sweet 16 would be on their radar. And then again, it might still be. Who knows what Kansas team shows up at that point in the tournament. So, yeah, you'd think they'd handle Northern Iowa, but then again, 12-5 matchup, who knows? Those are ones that can maybe get a little bit squirrely, but then after that, they'd be playing Kansas for a spot in the Sweet 16. So that'd be a big-time game to see Patino and Self going mano-a-mano.
You know, in the Big East, excuse me, Paul, St. John's, I think, played Seton Hall like in the semifinals or whatever, and they put up a picture of here's what the crowd looks like getting ready to walk into the arena for St. John's and Seton Hall, and it was oh my God, The Sopranos. It was a picture of like 8 to 12 guys, Tony and all them, with The Sopranos walking into the arena.
The note I think is interesting on St. John's is they have played 3 top 25 games all year long. Do you know who against?
St. John's?
Yes, 3 top 25 games all year long.
UConn twice?
UConn 3 times. They're 2-1.
Okay.
So
all
UConn
right.
3 times, including the championship game on Saturday or Sunday, whenever that was for them. So that's going to be interesting as they get into this tournament, because Kansas will be the first one they've seen other than UConn. If that's the case and Kansas wins their opening round game, as both these teams should, I think they got
there's not one team
12
in the
and 13 draws. But
not one team in the Big East is ranked right now other than those two.
Look at those open jobs right now and tell me how many are from the Big East, which is a very proud basketball conference. So, and it's the basketball only conference really for a lot of those schools.
Yeah, Creighton this year was under 500.
Yeah, so you've got a lot of schools that are normally really good that just this is not their year.
Seton Hall School. That's I didn't realize it was that top heavy. Obviously UConn, Villanova, and St. John's, but my goodness.
Yeah, so St. John, I'm not knocking it. Like Greg Pitino can't control how good the teams he plays are. It's just
they thumped Baylor.
I don't think they should be in the tournament because Auburn played like 10 top 25 teams.
No. Yeah, that's right. They lost to Alabama, and they lost to Auburn. These are top 25 teams they played in non-conference, but how about that? Yeah. Here's another nugget, and then we come back with the 4 o'clock hour. Missouri has just one NCAA tournament victory since the field expanded to 68 back in 2011. It's been 15 years, and Missouri has not been has not won a game in the tournament since that time. So even though it's expanded, they've been in it, but they have not been able to win a game. Oh, here's the one about Kansas.
Well, let me talk about Missouri for a second here.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I feel like it's really weird how Missouri's just sort of fallen completely off my radar since they moved to the SEC. Still pay attention to them, but there's just like that connection that's just not even there at all anymore, whereas I used to pay a bit of attention to them. And now I do still, but it's just more of like from an outside looking in sort of viewpoint versus you're going to see them at some point in the season and year after year after year. Like since they left the Big 12, I mean, they made that appearance right away in the SEC title game. And you're like, oh, that was easy. And then it's been very kind of up and down football-wise. And then I can tell you with a certainty, I have not thought about their basketball program for a single millisecond or fraction of time since they left the Big 12. And not that they didn't have good basketball, but I just realized in talking about this right now, I've not thought at all about Mizzou basketball since they left the Big 12.
The years of Norm Stewart and that team that got knocking on the door, but they couldn't get. Yeah.
Who was the coach, at the time coach they had that was, gosh, y'all don't have any Missouri former.
Quinn Snyder.
Quinn Snyder, yeah, like the handsome young devil that he was back in the early 2000s. That's like. Is he still the coach there? Because no, I know
He's
that.
in the NBA.
I know that, but that's kind of where my memory just stopped for Missouri basketball. It wasn't intentional either. It was just like I kept paying attention to football, and then I guess it's just the fact that I'm not a huge hoops head that you say that, and I go, oh, well, that's interesting because I hadn't thought about Mizzou basketball in a really long time.
They've still been good in the SEC. They just haven't in the Big 12. They were contending for they won the tournament.
They were super good.
They were great. Like the first Big 12 tournament, Smokey, you and I ever went to. Mizzou won.
Oh yeah.
They won. They were a great team that year. I think Mike Anderson might have been the head coach back then at Mizzou. And so there's a lot of different iterations of every team, but I do think it's weird because usually I believe this. I think that when you change conferences, you were going to be, for the most part, whoever you were in the other conference to most extents. I think Nebraska in football is maybe an outlier in this. But if you look at all the teams that moved to the SEC, they're essentially who they were. Although there might be more mountains to climb, Mizzou has just dropped just a little bit in basketball to where they're not contending for the conference title as much anymore. But even when they were in the Big 12, they didn't win the regular season title. They won the tournament a couple times because when they were in the Big 12, their biggest rival, Kansas, won it every year.
Yeah, no, they had a nice history, but not anything since that time. I'll hold the nugget for KU and a note about Kansas for the next hour. Norm Stewart and then Mike Anderson, you're right, Quinn Snyder and Mike Anderson, they had a pretty good run. But I would think that, you look at Texas in football, the year before they moved to the SEC, they made the big jump. And then, so they walked in and had the same success the first year with the SEC before losing to Georgia twice.
Yeah, and I wasn't even trying to make any sort of a correlation with them being in the SEC. It's just a matter of I really haven't thought about Missouri basketball since they left. And I'm sure there was a game or two on that I've come across, but yeah, I just, when we were talking this out loud, I was just like, God, I have really not thought about them. And so I guess I haven't missed much, all things being said, but yeah, that's just interesting because they were very good back in the day. And yeah, the conference thing, I think it gets – I understand why. I understand it's not always popular for me to say that I don't care as much about it as some people, the tribalism of it all. Like, I totally understand it, but I don't think it can be applied to every single thing. So, yeah, Texas went it and competed right away in the SEC in football, or Houston didn't have any problem joining the great Big 12, nor did Arizona.
Nope.
Because they were just good, period. Like, that's the thing. If you're just good, you're good. It's not you were good because you were in the Horizon League. You were good because you were good, especially if you were good consistently. So
yeah, Houston was in the Final Four the year Baylor won it in the American Conference. So they just added yet more good to it already really high-level conference.
Yeah, so like Arizona, like, oh, you're going to join the Big 12. They're like, okay, great. Yeah, we'll have no problem with that. And now here they are as both tournament and regular season champions. So, yeah, those are kind of things I think you look at in the early days of making a move. But ultimately, I think we've seen it pan out pretty much everywhere that's more of a narrative in our heads of like, well, they're going to the Big Ten now, guys. I don't know if Oregon's right away in the championship. Like, if you're good, you're good.
Yeah, there's some that have just flailed, and then there's some that, like you said, Arizona, Houston basketball. Heck, Houston in football, BYU in football, Arizona State in football. All three, have done well. One thing about Missouri against number 7 seed Miami, that game is in St. Louis. So right there in their backyard. A few more things about the NCAA tournament a little bit later on. Spring football. Some schools are on break this week. Some have opened up their spring football. All of that and more. And we'll have at 4:25 today, Joseph Duarte, who covers Houston in football. He'll join us from the Houston Chronicle. And this is 365 Sports. The Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium off I-35 in Waco. I went up there over the weekend just to see the changes. I've seen pictures that Nick Caldwell and his staff have sent me with all the brand new renovations. It's bright. It's wide open. Not wide open. It just looks more spacious, and it looks fantastic. They've changed some of the coloring. As simple as that. The lighting has changed. But I'll tell you what also was already great in the first place is the food. The food with top chefs that served great food with specials Tuesday through Sunday. Great brunch on Sunday. If you go get up in the morning, go to church and want something to have for a late breakfast or early lunch, they do that. Specials every day. Fantastic food. The amenities for anything from lunches to banquets and more. Nick Caldwell, memberships available. Tell them we sent you from 365 Sports, the Baylor Club, inside McLean Stadium off I-35 in Waco.
We're celebrating the Declaration of Deals at Allen Samuels in Waco. Right now, get $11,000 off a new Ram 1500 Lone Star, plus 2.9% for 72 months. Cash in on $11,000 off a new Ram 2500 Lone Star Crew Cab, or choose 0% for 36 months, plus no payments for 90 days. Feel secure with America's best full-size truck powertrain 10-year, 100,000-mile limited warranty at Allen Samuels.
I pitched in the major leagues for 24 years, and let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide. Affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Whatever it is you wrangle, whatever seeds you sow, no matter what you nurture or what you choose to grow, at Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, we're proud to protect all Texans.
This 4 o'clock hour is brought to you by Stonewood Dental, your one-stop shop for your dental needs, specializing in teeth cleaning, fillings, crowns, sealants, root canals, IV sedation, extractions, implants, bridges, dentures, full mouth restorations, and bioaesthetic dentistry. Our priority is your comfort from the moment you walk through the front door. Stonewood Dental in Robinson, Texas. Now it's time for 365 Sports.
So Arizona's the number one seed, and what a tournament up in Kansas City after so many times and days where so much was on the floor. Then they had the semifinals, flipped out the court on Friday, and that game, Craig, between Arizona and Iowa State was phenomenal. What a shot at the end to win it, and then, of course, Houston on Saturday. Here's a nugget about Arizona. Arizona, this is from Matt Norlander, this is this year's resume, has 12 wins against ranked opponents as they enter the tournament. 38% of its wins, that's 38% of their wins this year are against teams ranked opponents. That's the most in history per CBS Sports. 25-26 Arizona. Alabama had 12 just a couple of years ago, 11 from KU 10 years ago, and then the 02-03 Kentucky team and 92-93 Indiana, one of the great resumes for a single season in NCAA men's basketball history.
Yeah, like I said a few moments ago, it's the statsiest, blurbiest tournament in the entire world, and Arizona deserves all sorts of notes like that to point out how great they were and have been this year. Just a really solid, talented, deep, and explosive, great team. I mean, that was a lot of fun over the weekend to watch the Big 12 sort out its champion, and Arizona standing tall after standing tall in the regular season. It's a hell of an accomplishment for a program that's accomplished a lot already. But yeah, I mean, what did you think about the floor? I thought that, given all the conversation about it, I was just kind of curious of what they were going to pivot to, and they luckily had they had a floor that they could turn to. This wasn't like scrambling to go like, I got a high school gym floor or something like that. But I felt like it definitely made a huge difference in the conversation around the games. I feel like we were spending a lot of time, and we being just the media and fans of the audience that was watching these Big 12 games in Kansas City, going back to the women's games. I know that the women raised some concerns, and there was some discussion about it then. I feel like back then, with all due respect to the women, it wasn't telling them to shut up and move on, and now the men are complaining about it, so now we'll change it. I just felt like it was clear that there was, like, you're getting down to your nitty-gritty. Are you going to play your championship and finish out the tournament on this court and have all the conversation be about a potential injury that occurs or about the court itself and what it looks like, or are you going to take these 4 excellent basketball teams and just have them play basketball on a basketball court? And so the benefit of hindsight, even though I thought it was a good idea on Friday, I think it was an excellent idea in hindsight. It was just about basketball. Like, the conversation after those games, it wasn't the court. It wasn't, well, this guy got injured, and, oh, it wasn't because of the court, or, oh, my God, can you believe this court, like it was for the first several days. It was just like, wow, that was some hellacious basketball being played with some great teams.
It was about the damn games.
Yeah, and I think it was very clear there was just a lot less noise surrounding the outcomes. And so I think they made the right call and did the right thing in changing that up, because it was apparent that, yes, more of the focus was on the basketball itself. And thank goodness it was, because it was high-level basketball. And Arizona, I mean, you've already shown like 20 different stats here about how good they are and where they are in the pecking order as far as one of the top handful of teams. But hats off to the Wildcats on pulling the double dip and not only winning the regular season outright, but then turning around and going through a hellacious few days of some top-level tournament basketball to get crowned champion. And, yeah, to see Jaden Bradley hit the game winner on, what was that, Friday night?
Yep.
Was, to me, like the first thing I was just like, player of the year.
There was a lot of discussion when they announced the first team and the player of the year, because A.J. DeBanza was phenomenal among others, and maybe Toppin would have been much more a part of that. Darren Peterson, although he gave some people pause on that. The one thing that you could not say against the young man who hit the game-winning shot for Arizona was that he was there. When Iowa State tied the game, Arizona did not call timeout. Tommy Lloyd didn't need to set up some play. He said, we got our guy, get in the ball, let's see if he could make something happen. A fall-away jumper with a guy right in his face would be a great poster shot. I know Iowa State lost. I hate it for them. But what a shot and what great defense, even though he made it.
No, I mean, there's for everybody celebrating, there's the other side. So Killian Torrey, they're playing defense. I mean, that's something that he's going to have to I guess, sleep well at night and try not to think about too much. But I think it's also one of those situations that you probably don't have too much difficulty, because you go, well, he just made a play. Like, he just made a great play. You couldn't have done anything differently. He just made a great play. That's why he's the player of the freaking year. Like, this is why.
That's exactly right.
Jaden Bradley's the player of the year. This is why. So, yeah, that was high drama, and what a crowd. As much as we talked about Arizona and them being at least somewhat part of the discourse about where the tournament is last week, it's a scattering. It was a scattering of just random Arizona fans. It was a scattering of random Utah fans, and just been others here and there along the way. Yeah, they had a pretty good little turnout from what I could hear on their end, and that might have also been some of the other fan bases they were rooting against having to play. Because what was determined by then? Was Houston already advanced at that point on Friday night? I'm trying to remember, because I was traveling until I got home with the beer. So Had Houston already won earlier in the day?
Oh, God.
You know what I'm saying?
I just
so
remember. I don't remember that who played who, what time. I just remember the shot.
I don't know if that was Houston fans screaming that they don't have to play Iowa State fans on their.
Houston beat KU and beat them up pretty good.
Right before, after.
I think that was the second game.
Okay,
it
so
doesn't matter, but
whatever the case was, I don't know who was rooting for Arizona, but they were happy to hear it because there was a big explosion of noise. And for Iowa State fans, that was a bummer of a moment, but it was a hell of a basketball game, and they got a lot of opportunity to go and make a whole heck of a lot of more important noise in this next tournament phase. So, I think Iowa State's not a team that you want to get too early on, and I think Arizona's clearly one of the teams that people respect the most heading into this thing. So, that was Big 12 basketball. When you advertise it a certain way and you promote it to be the best of the best, where you have a commissioner who's saying things like we're the second best league in the world behind the NBA, that's what you show them. That's the kind of atmosphere and game and back and forth and big-time players that you show people and go, this is why it's the best league outside of the NBA. That's what I felt, at least in watching that, was just like, this is what March is all about. This is fun stuff here.
When I got to the golf course on Saturday morning and we're all at the range, everybody's talking about the game between Arizona and Iowa State. Everybody's talking about the shot. And then, of course, the nightcap was Houston destroying KU by 22 points, just ate them alive.
So maybe
in the
it was
semis.
Houston and Kansas State fans cheering for Arizona in that moment because they didn't want to face Iowa State at Hilton South.
Houston and Kansas or whoever didn't want to have to play Iowa State at home, but
because there was a lot of talk about Arizona not traveling a bunch, but man, when they hit that shot, you could hear that pop.
Did you see the note from Yormark, Tommy Lloyd, saying that Brett Yormark was going to set up and work with Southwest Airlines to have direct shots from Tucson or Phoenix into Kansas City next year because of the concerns about the tournament being there, and sometimes it's not easy to get to certain places.
Yeah, that's cool.
But they're on a charter. He's talking about the fans.
I was going to say, I hope it's not one of those like, what was the story we saw here lately? It was the Notre Dame special arrangement travel for one of their games, right? That, I don't know, we talked about it like 2 or 3 weeks ago, but it was a way more expensive. It was like, hey, we got this specialized thing, but it's also more expensive, so hopefully it's not something like that. But, if Yormark can make travel easier for the Zona fans to get where they need to get, then that would be great, and that was a hell of a win and a hell of a basketball game, like I said. And then to have it not over, but to have still a championship game, to have Houston, Kansas, although that wasn't the most
no, it was a dominant
comparison. That was not the most entertaining.
KU had no chance in that game, just absolutely smothered by Houston. And then I was a little bit, for Houston's sake, Arizona opened up a lead pretty early, and it seemed like Houston kept trying to come. Finally got back in it, and then, of course, Arizona had too much to pull away and win it in the end. Here is a note about KU. Each of the past 6 times that Kansas was not the number 1 seed, they failed to make it out of the first weekend of the tournament. Losing in the first round once, second round 5 times. The last time Kansas reached the Sweet 16 when it wasn't a number 1 seed was in 2012. These are just nuggets that are out there. And so KU not being a number 1 seed has not been good to them in the last 6 attempts they've played in the tournament.
Well, I mean, take that for what it's worth. You're giving us a lot of information. There's a lot of interesting streaks, but these things are made to be broken. So we'll see if Kansas can't break that one. But it is kind of fascinating to hear all of the sort of recent and even extended history and sort of lore when it comes to teams and their resumes and kind of what their last few years have been like. So whether it's having not gotten out of the second round in however many years, or how many times you haven't won a first-round game or whatever, like that's the fun part about March, is that you go in and you rewrite history. It's a fresh opportunity to break streaks or to continue streaks or to just do any number of things, whether it's new or old, and add some accolades to your program with each passing game, or you don't, and you go home, and that's it, and that's season over, and it's just abrupt, and it's done just like that. So, yeah, it's down to that time. This is what everybody looks forward to, and we got our first step, which was getting the big announcements on who's in and who's out, and then got the second step, which was everybody waiting for the sites to fill in all of the blanks on the brackets to start printing those out or setting those up. And here in the next few days, we'll start to get those very fun middle of the day. Here's somebody hitting a buzzer beater to advance to the next round, and yeah, I just you can feel it in the air, even though it's a bit cold outside for March Madness here around these parts, but nevertheless, you can feel the madness in the air.
We had over the weekend, at least in Central Texas, winds of 25 to like 50 miles an hour. It was chilly in the morning on Saturday, but it warmed up. The sun came out. It was okay. Not quite that much. Then yesterday, it was warmer in the morning, but I played in a golf tournament, a two-man scramble, and it was literally 25 to 30 to 5. I think 36 is where it peaked wind, and then last night it got even worse.
Yeah, I think there's something going on across the country, but yeah, it's 49 degrees. It was like 80 on Saturday.
This morning it was like 32, felt like 32 because of the wind.
32 this morning, and then it's going to be like 90 by Friday.
Yeah, 49 degrees, Craig, but feels like 32 because the wind, and we're just kind of, the wind right now is 17 to 30 miles an hour.
Yeah, so people in like Minnesota are like, shut up, you losers.
Shut up,
but
you losers.
No, it's just been a wild roller coaster. So my whole point in bringing up the weather was it doesn't feel quite like spring right now. It did about 2 days ago. It felt just like spring. Now it does. It feels like we're back in winter, but it does feel like March Madness regardless.
But yeah, it's warming up. It'll be beautiful temperatures and weather as we get to the weekend. All right, when we come back, we continue 365 Sports. And at some point today, we will look at if the tournament was larger, not next, but if the tournament was expanded, who would have gotten in and who would they have played? It was just a bunch of mess. Remember, even last Friday, we mentioned that it was the worst, softest, weakest bubble ever when it comes to teams trying to get into the tournament. So expanding it would have just made it larger, weaker, not as good bubble teams. I lost your voice. Craig's mic's not on. All right. This is 365 Sports. When you
join the celebration. It's 27 years for Richard Car Motors, and we're celebrating with big anniversary savings. Encore GX offers stylish design, a quiet, refined ride, advanced safety, and a premium interior. Right now, during Richard Car's 27th anniversary sale, save $5,000 on any 2026 Buick Encore GX in stock. Thank you, Central Texas, for 27 years. Log on, call, or come by today to find big anniversary savings now.
At Richard Car, we give you more.
With over 25 years of excellence in IT, Carrion Solutions is your trusted technology partner. From managed IT services to cutting-edge cybersecurity, our expert team delivers tailored solutions that drive success. Our portfolio includes products such as Veeam, Bitdefender, Microsoft, Cisco, and Fortinet. Call David Carrion and his team of experts. Call 888-522-2221 or visit us at carrionsolutions.com.
Bold are the adventurous. Determined are the leaders. Faithful are the healers. At Baylor, you'll find your calling, your people, and your purpose. Dare to be you, indeed.
Pepperoni Magnifico. Pepperoni Magnifico. Marco's Pepperoni Magnifico. Classic and crispy cut pepperoni, 3 melty cheeses, all on our fresh made dough. And starting at just $12.99 for a large, it's no wonder Marco's was named America's favorite pizza chain.
I pitched in the major leagues for 24 years. And let me tell you, I can feel it in my joints. Shoulders, elbows, and knees. Trust me, pain doesn't retire when you do. I tried everything to get rid of the pain. Nothing worked until QC Kinetics.
Baseball legend Roger Clemens and other patients are getting lasting relief with QC Kinetics regenerative treatments. No surgery.
I trust QC Kinetics. You should too. Let's commit to getting rid of all the pain.
Schedule your free consultation today. QC Kinetics. Better starts here.
This is 365 Sports.
.365 Sports. Paul Catalina not on the set right now. Is working on a couple of things in the producer's booth. Craig Smoak with me, David Smoak. This is 365 Sports. I want to give you one note about Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. I just heard from Ted Teague. They had a 2023 Volvo XC60, dark gray, gorgeous white over black leather interior available, $32,990. It is sitting there for you on the lot at Allen Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Loop 340 and east of 84 in Waco. So had the tournament expanded, we will get to that and what would have happened. A couple of the nuggets, Craig. We're going to a couple of the nuggets that I thank God for Chris Falica and some of the nuggets for the tournament coming up. Rick Barnes' teams have been seeded 5th or worse 16 times. 16 times. They have made it out of the first weekend once. 2002, the number 6 seed at UT, they have lost in the first round when they are 5th or worse as a seed 12 times. So Tennessee right now, not highly thought of as far as the high seed, and so there's a trend that Rick Barnes and his teams are working against at this time with the Vols.
Rick Barnes is a great coach, but does have a bit of a hard time getting to that mountaintop, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Been around a long time, been very, very successful, but it's really hard to get to that peak, and he's a good example of just how hard that is. But Tennessee, shout out to our Vols fans out there. Good little team. I think, again, the SEC getting the most teams in the tournament, that seemed to be something I've noticed people getting a little bit prickly about, but you know what the good news is about all that, of who should have gotten what, or who, how many teams with a streak or whatever the hell is. There's a fresh slate to go and do all these things. Like, is the SEC overrated? Guess what? We're about to find out. Is the Big 12 all that it's cracked up to be? Guess what? We're about to find out. If again, Florida goes and wins another national title, I don't want to hear jack squat about the they didn't deserve 10 or whatever. I think it only reinforces that they probably did if they had the best team in the country. And that's all that anybody's going to really be thinking about afterwards, because I know why, if I sit and actually think about it, I can vaguely remember kind of the breakdown last year, but what I really remember immediately is that Florida won the national title. So, there's just a lot of things that are at stake historically.
And came back to beat Houston on the verge.
Beat Houston.
The whole narrative or the whole feeling is different if Houston wins their first and also wins one for the Big 12.
Well, that's also why I kind of don't want to hear the whining about, well, we deserved more. I hear deserve a lot from different angles, and I think that there's some times where that's valid, and I think there's also just like, you also need to go and earn it. We deserve more respect. Go earn it. Go earn more respect. And I think one of the ways for the Big 12 particularly to do that is to, go and have a team win the title. I think that it's the best league in America, top to bottom. Certainly top-heavy this past year. I think it was arguably the best league in America. But while maybe you deserved 8 or 9 teams and you feel like somebody else, whoever that is, deserved 1 or 2 less, ultimately, all we're going to remember at the end is who was standing tall, hoisting the trophy. And so I would love to see a Houston finally get to that mountaintop, or Arizona to do it for the first time in a really long time, and just kind of put that stamp on the league. But, last year you had a chance to do it, and you let the narrative slip through your fingertips because Houston couldn't close that bad boy on out. But Tennessee, one of the many SEC teams that are going to try to make it another year in a row for them, and we'll see how they do. Rick Barnes, though, does about as accomplished as you can get without getting to the very top of the sport.
He did take Texas quite a
Final
bit,
Four.
of course. And had the great run at UT. The Final Four.
It was like 05.
He was in the tournament at UT every year but once. His third to the last year. No, he wasn't the one that took him to the Final Four. 2000, his fourth team at UT went to the Final Four with TJ Ford and that team.
Yeah.
They were really, really good. So he only missed the tournament one time. At Tennessee, he's been in the tournament the last 6 years, including this one, and 7 of the 8 years he's been with the Volunteers. And the only year he didn't make it was the year they had COVID.
03 is when that happened. So
Yeah.
So I was right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, you're making me think.
Yeah. Well, they highlighted when you did certain, but they didn't highlight. That should
No,
be
I was
like
like, no,
in
I'm
gold.
pretty sure. Yeah, they were in that Final Four, unless my brain's deceiving me.
2003-4.
But I was off by a year there. So that was a good little pocket of time for Texas, wasn't it? 03 Final Four run, 05 national championship. There's a lot of big things happening for them back then, and I guess to some degree still, but not with basketball. We'll see how they do in the tournament. A team that did get in, that was a bit debatable, but again, they had some strong regular season wins that made them far less of a question than some of the other bubble teams. So I think they got in with relative ease ultimately. But Rick Barnes, a really good coach, been doing it a really long time, but it just goes to show you how hard winning a national title is.
All right, I'm going to put this in the chat room. I was about to type it up. Send me or put in the chat room a question about football, college football, any question you may have about college football, Big 12 or otherwise, and Craig and I will be here to answer that particular question. If you'll do that for me, we would appreciate it here on 365 Sports. Over the weekend, Craig, you have the World Baseball Classic. Is the United States beat the Dominican team last night. They now wait whether Venezuela and or Italy, the Cinderella, and a really good team, played tonight to get to the championship game. Did you keep much focus on that last night?
Yes, I did, and there will be no and or. It will be either you're not going to play both Italy and Venezuela. It will be one or the other. As I am a grammar Nazi, but yes, it's a really fun event that has certainly taken kind of the baseball and I think sort of the casual sports world by storm. And last night, it was fun because I went back home for the weekend to celebrate my birthday, and I decided to stay Sunday night and get up and leave this morning, in large part because not only did I want to spend more time with family, but I also wanted to just sit back and watch the World Baseball Classic and watch Team USA do their thing, hopefully against the Dominican Republic. And that game was awesome. The atmosphere was absolutely electric and incredible, like you expected it to be. And Paul Skeens was not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but he was really good. And you only hold somebody to a run. I think you feel pretty good about your performance overall, even though he could, that's how good he is he gave up a run. And you're like, well, technically he was kind of like a little bit, but he was great. He is incredible stuff. I've said this a few times now recently, but he's a guy he's one of the few athletes I would pay to buy a ticket to go and watch. As far as just specifically, the Pirates are in town, I would never in my life prior to this go I got to go see the Pirates. I have no reason to. But Paul Skeens is pitching for the Pirates. I'll go pay $200 to sit as close as I can to watch Paul Skeens pitch.
Yep.
So people got a treat last night just seeing that amount of talent on both sides all accumulated in one single game. And I saw a lot of comparisons to, is this more talent than you see during the All-Star game? That's debatable. Is this the most talent that's ever been on the field together ever? And there's people going back to the 1929 All-Star game and stuff like that to try and compare it. That's how much just electricity and accomplishment and star power it had attached to it. So you knew it was going to be a hell of a game. And it turned out to be a lot more low scoring than people would have ever had wanted. You got all those big time hitters. Dominican was breaking the home run record with ease, even though it's not the oldest tournament in the world, but still, they were just crushing homers all throughout. And to see a 2-1 baseball game be the way that this was decided, I don't think, even with Skeens on the mound for Team USA, I don't think anybody was anticipating that it would be a 2-1 type of a ball game with this many hitters. Then again, the U.S. hitters aren't very good. They have not been very good as a team hit-wise. But, there's a lot to unpack from that game. Judge's throw out at third of Tatis was incredible. You had Skeens' performance, although it wasn't his sharpest, but still just gave up the one run. Some incredible defensive plays from Bobby Witt Jr. at shortstop. He's just an absolute stud. And just a couple of really timely hits, and that's all she wrote for that game. But it was awesome. And Team USA, for as much as people have sort of pointed out the fact that they're not having that much fun, or point out that they got themselves in a situation where they kind of sounded like they were BSing as far as really knowing what was going on. they're on the other side of that. They're playing for the title, and I think it's going to be awesome to see that finale and to see whether or not they can beat Venezuela to try to take this thing on home. But Venezuela, Japan, a little less competitive, but still an entertaining game. And I've loved every minute of the World Baseball Classic. I had family over the weekend that were like, when did this become such a big deal? And I was like, I really think like the last time around is when it started to kind of get its momentum as far as being must watch or you got to check this out type of TV. And then this year with just, I think, all the patriotism coming over from the Olympics, the fact that Venezuela and the Dominican Republic and these countries just love baseball so much, and this is a really unique opportunity for them to see all the best players all at one time. It's just really cool, and I've loved it.
I think the international crowds, they get – you always hear about what they're like during soccer. The international crowds bring a flavor to this tournament, whether it's Venezuela, Dominican Republic, or Mexico or whoever. It's just different. You know, it really is. The way they get locked into these games. And Judge, you mentioned the throw. He got robbed of a home run at center field on a great catch at the wall. Just an absolutely phenomenal. And we discussed this about a week ago with Craig's Off the Radar when they started playing games, and I was kind of had it on. And then that game with Italy got me locked in when Italy beat the United States, and now there's a chance they might have a rematch in the championship.
Yeah, no, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I might have already penciled Venezuela in. But no, they've got to beat Italy, and that's
what I said.
I was correcting myself.
Oh, okay. Oh, what? Okay.
I was correcting what I said a second ago.
You had corrected my grammar. That's right.
So, yeah, Italy and Venezuela have got to play each other first, and we'll see how that goes. But, yeah, I think that it's been an amazing tournament, like I've said, all throughout these last week and a half or so of games that we've been talking about. And really looking forward to if Team USA can win one more, win the World Baseball Classic for the first time in a few years, and especially to have done so when you were facing elimination, and really more than you were facing elimination, you're facing a ton of criticism throughout this whole tournament. Some of it self-realized criticism, self-inflicted criticism, and then some of it maybe people going a little bit too far the other direction as far as that criticism goes. But either way, Skeens is a phenomenal talent. I don't know how he's not possibly bringing in new baseball fans or just making current baseball fans even bigger baseball fans. And I think that way about this entire tournament. I don't know how you're already not probably baseball crazed if you're in Venezuela or the Dominican, but if you're even on the fence, then you watch this and you go, oh, yeah, I'm all in on this thing. And, yes, a large part of it is that whereas Team USA is kind of ho-hum, boring, and just sort of tame in comparison to especially the Latin American, Caribbean countries, they make it so much fun that it's impossible to not be infectious. And I was showing some people who haven't been watching it some clips, and they're like, wow, that's when did this event start? And it's like, well, it started actually like 20 years ago, but it never really picked up this kind of steam until I think the tail end of last go-around, and then certainly this year. It's just been from start to finish. It's been a really big deal, and I think, again, that goes back to having the different regions to start off with. That's a big difference from the Olympics, where if you're in Barcelona, Spain, you're in Barcelona, Spain. If you're in Barcelona, Spain, you probably don't have baseball even in the Olympics, but these days. But in LA, they'll probably have it, but all the games will be in LA. That'll be an eclectic, electric crowd, but not like it was when Ohtani's playing in front of his fellow Japanese fans in the Tokyo Dome. Mm-hmm. And it's Puerto Rico and San Juan, Puerto Rico at their renowned stadium, and it's the Dominican and the Venezuelans in Miami, and it's Team USA down in Houston. It's hit every note pretty much perfectly, and I don't know how they're going to continue to top themselves, but this has been a really fun year, and I think it's been a really nice step forward for the game of baseball if they handle it properly. If they grab this momentum and they continue to really promote this tournament the way that you expect that they will, I think the WBC's got a lot more to grow and to become an even bigger event. And I think it only helps just baseball fandom in general to have an event like this.
People in the chat with the popcorn and what a game it was last night. Look
awesome.
Forward to it.
We are not a country that loves low-scoring things. We don't love 2-1 baseball games most of the time. Now, if it was Paul Skeens throwing a no-hitter, you'd be like, yeah, let's win 2-1. But it was the way that it was, and low scoring was okay because it was a win. And we do need to talk about the strike call, the final strike.
Based on what you now have with the graphics, et cetera, it was
the
below.
ABS is what it's called.
Yeah, it was below the strike zone. But
it was.
Yeah.
I hated that it ended on that. I hated that such a great baseball game, such a competitive, fun baseball game, ended on a sour note like that, where you had a judgment call kind of decide things when so much of it had been decided by Aaron Judge throwing a guy out, or a catch at the wall in center field, or just superb pitching or defense from Bobby Witt. Like, for it to kind of be marred a little bit. I'm not allowing it to mar it for me, just to be clear, but I can see where it's like a great football game ending on a controversial pass interference call. It's like, damn it, we got through nearly 4 quarters, and at the very last second, here's this random officials getting involved in the outcome of this, and it didn't feel nefarious, although I know for the non-Americans it certainly probably came across very easily as that way. I just thought it was a bad call, especially if you're on the losing side of it, and really, more than anything, it didn't take away from the game for me. It just ruined what could have been like the perfect ending of just this no-doubter strikeout, boom, you move on, Team USA won. Instead, there is that little pocket of people who want to try to take away from people's happiness or take away from Team USA's accomplishment because they're a Dominican fan or something. And I can see where you're coming from with that. But as you've seen, I'm sure ad nauseum, I've been driving all day, but I'm sure you've seen it ad nauseum. I would expect that the ABS will be at the next World Baseball Classic, and that's the simple fix to it.
Here's the thing. Balls and strikes is like complaining about holding and pass interference, except they show you what the strike zone is. And that pitch, all my life, that usually depends on the umpire. It's a low strike. It wasn't in the ABS, but it was called a strike. It was also maybe too close to take. But in this day and age of all of the analytics, the way things are, hitters are told not to hit that anymore. You can, but that's a low strike. It did not affect the way I looked at the game. Had even Dominican Republic won the game on that strike call against an American hitter, wouldn't have bothered me.
No, it wouldn't have bothered me either. I wouldn't have let that if they had managed to score all of 1 run up until that point, the final strike of the game, then yeah, I'm not going to say, well, Team America got screwed because that final strike call. Now, there were some other calls that weren't that great either as far as the strike zone goes. That's the human element, and it's part of the story of that game, but it's not like the end-all, be-all, like, oh, well, the Americans only won because of this. No, they won because Bobby Witt made great plays. Paul Skeens gave up 1 run. Aaron Judge threw out Tatis at third. You had some timely homers. Like that's why you won that game ultimately. And it was awesome, and I can't wait to see tonight who joins the U.S. in the finale and what we're going to be looking at as far as a WBC final.
All right. Good wrap-up, but it was a hell of a game to watch, and now we'll wait for Dominican and Italy. So I asked the question, Venezuela. I asked a question about, is there a football question you'd like for us to answer? Michael Games, when it comes down to conference realignment, do the 3 remaining Dakota schools follow North Dakota State to the Mountain West? It doesn't appear as if that's going to be the case. Also, the timeline of the next conference realignment, although we've had Sacramento State, North Dakota State, et cetera, that seems to be in that 2030 range or slightly before, based on when everybody starts to renegotiate their television deal when it comes to college football. That is what might lead to the next, if there's going to be any kind of large changes like we saw just 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple to figure out kind of the baseline of when certain things happen, and it's always around the time these TV contracts come up, although these things can be kept very hush-hush. I mean, until Brent Zorneman broke the story about Oklahoma and Texas, they had apparently been having a hell of a lot of conversations with the SEC that nobody was privy to, or that nobody who was aware of had managed to leak out, because that wasn't one of those. Like, I remember now in hindsight seeing Texas fans here and there allude to certain things about kind of dropping breadcrumbs for what could possibly be, and I just never, I guess, really bought into it. So I guess there was some talk about what was going on behind the scenes, and some thought that maybe there was more work being done than thought. So that move wasn't like 100% completely shocking it was like 98.5% completely shocking. But yeah, these things typically revolve around TV deals. I think it's much more of a wild card now, though, with the wild cards that we have in play, like the TV money and the NIL money and all these things. It's just a different ball game than it was even when OU and Texas were making that move. So as far as the Dakota schools go, I mean, I've heard nothing to indicate, and I'm not going to claim insider and then say, insider, David Smoak tells me there's no realignment. Like, we don't play that game. So, yeah, I don't know. I haven't seen any indication on that being in the works, but I can totally understand why anybody who could possibly have a chance to do that, especially after seeing a North Dakota State or a Sacramento State making the move that they did. If you have a team that's sort of on that fence and feels like you might be interested in jump on the other side of that fence, like, now is the time that's all going to be getting worked out, and getting done, because I don't think after the next go-round of TV deals that we're probably talking about the same type of setup for much longer. Does that make sense?
Yep.
I think we're going to get these next deals, and then it's kind of going to be whatever it is, like FBS, if you refer to it that way, or Super League or whatever. I feel like that's going to all get worked out here in the next few years. And
do you think it'll be worked out before or during the next TV negotiations, like 2030 or so?
I think it'll be closer to that, but I mean, if you think about it, we're already almost halfway through 2026. I mean, we're a quarter of the way, actually. We're a quarter of the way through 2026. Those deals all vary. They're kind of a year off from each other. They're not all like 2029, but I think we could I think you could see things happen before the TV deals get officially signed, because it'll be a part of those negotiations. If you're the SEC, or let's say you're the Big Ten and you're reopening your contract, like some people speculate that they might, to try to grab what they can while they can, post-NFL or pre-NFL, actually, try to get what you can before the NFL if at all possible. If they were going to go grab Miami or Florida State or whatever the rumor du jour is, then I feel like that's in your negotiations that you're having. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, so that's if you're signing a new TV contract in 2031, then I would think, yeah, your big moves are going to predate that. They're not going to happen after the fact. So, yeah, we got about a 4-year runway here where all these things are going to be coming up kind of one after the other. You've got the NFL contract that looms large because you don't know quite what to expect. And as every media analyst has said, that's going to dictate what everybody else gets, basically, and what's left over to even be gotten. So, yeah, sorry. Don't know about any other Dakota schools joining the fray, but if they were going to, like, this is the window to do that.
I don't think you're going to see them do that, because otherwise that would have been like, hey, we're leaving. Why don't you leave with us if one or two or three of the others?
Yeah, kind of like when 4 Pac-12 schools joined the Big 12, and then you heard, like, well, now it's Oregon State, and it's like, well, they just added – why would they not just add them as well? Like, why would you not just take 6 at once if you were going to do that? Why would you wait a month? That doesn't make any sense. But I don't know that they're locked at the hip like that, but there is this window that's open right now. And quite frankly, that window could shut again in 2030, 31, because you don't know what, again, it looks like on the other side. So whatever it is that we're going to be watching and rooting for the foreseeable future, it's all been getting put together behind the scenes these last few years. And it's going to continue to turn into whatever it's going to turn into over these next few. And it's going to be a really fascinating time, because I definitely think there's going to be some movement. But I also know there's a lot of just BS out there about what that could be. And then there's a lot of stuff that's really interesting and legit. And you go like, no, totally, I could see that. So, yeah, it's easy to understand why it's so fun to talk about. Because so many possibilities are out there. Even if some of them aren't that realistic, they're still fun to talk about.
What I like, though, is that since a lot of this discussion about the rules and from the NCAA and the ruling, the House settlement, it seemed like about every other week you'll see some sort of quote from somebody who is the president or the commissioner of the SEC or even a coach about, well, we need to go our own separate way.
Right.
I don't see that happening. I'm not saying there won't be a upper tier. For example, just last week, Jerry Moorhead, he's the president at Georgia, saying something about we need to go by our own set of rules. Greg Sankey has said that, the commissioner, about we need to have our own set of rules. What, in fact, does that exactly mean?
Well, that's being able to punish each other for tampering. That's being able to actually have, the rules that the NCAA says that they have or technically has, but never ably actually executes for the most part. So I think that that's what that is more of just actually having some self-policing versus just relying on the NCAA to do things. But I do think that can be looked at as a step towards having another reason to split off and say, all right, the NCAA is not ruling. And again, you are the NCAA, which is why this is also dumb to begin with in some ways. But I do think it's like of today, if I was to put money on it, I'd say the odds are better for a 4 big league breakaway of some sort versus the 2 super league breakaway, like Big Ten and the Big Ten and the SEC. Like that might be like the end game, but I don't think they're going to go like straight to that. And this is just me speculating, by the way, but I think it would be more along the lines of the Big Ten, the Big 12, the SEC, the ACC still kind of need each other in some ways for March Madness, for things of that nature. So they break off and police themselves, maybe conference by conference, and that's what the breakaway could be. Some think it would be the Big Ten and the SEC going and doing the NFL thing. I'm not there yet, but I don't think that's out of the question entirely. I think anybody who says, like, there's no chance, like, I think there's better than no chance.
It's not going to be just those 2 conferences. It's just not going to. You're not going to leave.
Why do you say that so sure?
Because you don't leave Clemson, Florida State.
Well, they wouldn't, though.
Miami.
They would get those teams before they did it.
Yeah, they would have to add them before they.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is like going back to the SEC TV deal. Well, you're going to negotiate that, and if you are in fact going to add North Carolina and Virginia and Clemson and whoever else, then you're going to be negotiating that into that TV deal. You're not going to cut the TV deal unless you're like leaving the names blank, but you're accounting for them being added in some form or fashion. So this is the time for those types of things to happen. And eventually you do get to a point where if you take a Clemson and you take a Miami and you take a North Carolina, you go and you look at the ACC and you go, what are you? And then you go, well, I'm Brett Yormark. I know Louisville's been talking back and forth with me for like 4 years now. I'm going to go take them too. And, they got a buddy that wants to join them? I'll take that guy. And next thing you know, you're looking around and it's like Boston College and who else? Pitt? Oh, hey, Pitt. If they haven't been plucked. And that's how that starts to crater. But, it's going to be fascinating. It's going to be fascinating. There's just a lot of stuff you're going to have to sort through that's just very much clickbait.
Yeah, right now, I think it's just talk. And I know that some of you in the chat or those who send in notes or whatever, you feel like it's a super league. It maybe that's the name of it in the end, whatever they call it, but it won't just be the SEC and the Big Ten. It'll add maybe they even lose a few teams and a few others join the fray from other conferences.
I just have an impossibly hard time imagining the SEC or the Big Ten kind of kicking teams to the curb. And just saying, all right, all we've cared about is history and geography. Now we're going to just throw that to the wayside because we want to narrow down the average grade per team of excellence kind of a thing. So, no, we can't afford to have Purdue in our league. Like, I don't know. I have a hard time seeing that. I have a much easier time seeing them. Here's the problem with those comparisons. A super league doesn't have to be exactly the same as the NFL. It doesn't have to be 32 teams.
No.
It doesn't have to be 20. It can be 45 teams if you want it to be. There's no rules. So there's not a cutoff where, well, we can't have Vandy because, well, that'd be 34 teams. No, you would just have Vandy. You just wouldn't kick them out. And so there's a lot of opinions. There's a lot of theories on how this will all play out. All I know for sure is that I definitely expect there will be something that occurs between now and that time frame because it typically always does. I know there's also a lot of stuff I see that if I believed everything I read, the Big 12 would have about 32 teams right now. And I think some of those, like UConn, have actually legitimately been conversations. I think there's some that are absolutely thrown at the wall to get you to press click. And we don't do that, but I have seen that. So there's going to be a lot of that over these next few years. And what comes out to be true or not is going to be one way or the other fascinating because I do think it's the next logical evolution of whatever we're going to be covering for the foreseeable future after that.
When I read the quote from Jerry Moorhead at Georgia about we want to set our own set of rules, you have some of the teams that are being accused of tampering.
Yes, they do. Well, which is why I think actually them self-policing might be the best thing, because then you really have like no excuse of like.
Oh, I think they would. I think they would actually
police each other.
I think they would bust the balls of some of the guys inside the conference.
You would have to, because otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah.
So I think as opposed to the NCAA says, Tennessee, you're bad, take your punishment, and Tennessee says, screw you, we're hiring a lawyer. If they all agree to this framework where the SEC is the end-all, be-all, and Greg Sankey says, hey, if we slap you for tampering, then under this agreement, you cannot turn around and sue us, otherwise we'll boot your ass out of the league, then you're probably going to go along with it, and that would be a way to nip that in the bud. But the whole nationalized version of it, clearly there's not enough teeth to it, or enough manpower for that matter, or enough legal knowledge or rulings in your favor to really do that. But like on a case-by-case basis within your league where you've all agreed, like, yeah, Georgia needs to cut out the tampering BS, signed Ole Miss, Tennessee, Oklahoma, and Texas, then I think you actually could make it work that way versus what we have now.
Here are some questions as well, Craig. What are your number one spring storylines in the various conferences? Let's start with the Big 12. We're not going to go each conference, and there's a couple other questions to get to. Let's start with the Big 12. Give me your top one or two, and I'll have mine storylines in the Big 12 in football during the spring.
Well, it's kind of boring because it's right off the top and it's the best team, but can Texas Tech take it to another level? I mean, are they just going to cruise through the league like they did last year, save for maybe a slight scare here and there? And obviously a loss to Arizona State, but they fought, scratched, and clawed to get a little bit of a taste, and they got a little bit of a taste, and so I would think that only makes you even hungrier. And I would think Texas Tech is more all-in than as all-in as they were last year, but like just simply getting a Brendan Sorsby and replacing a bunch of guys? Are you going to just continuously – is that just every year the thing that we just fast forward through is you just reload and you dominate the Big 12 and then you go in the playoff and then we see like that's where actually everything comes out in the wash? I think Tech should clearly be the odds-on favorite next year. Right now I would pick them to go undefeated. But then when they get to that next round of the playoff, like are they able to beat an Oregon this time around? Have they equipped themselves to do that? That to me is a fascinating story.
The odds, by the way, for Texas Tech's wins in 2026 are 11.5. They play 12 games. Well, it's 11.5, so there's like a half a loss in there. Maybe they, as you mentioned, lost last year to Arizona State.
I'm right now predicting them to go 12-0 based on their schedule and all that, but we'll see on there. So, yeah, I think Texas Tech, can they take another step up? And then, I mean, gosh, when you asked me about the Big 12 specifically, like I could do the 3 hours on this because I do think there's so many interesting storylines. But, gosh, to choose one, I think it's like who's the second tier? I mean, BYU and Arizona State, and I think like TCU all feel pretty good about where they are. Houston certainly, but like, is it just?
Are they a sleeping giant in a way?
I don't think they're a sleeping giant. I think.
Okay, let's put it this way: are they a sleeping team that's going to be at the top of the Big 12, fighting with the other ones that we've seen? Texas Tech, et cetera.
Well, that's the expectation.
I agree.
What is being predicted for next year. So, yeah, I think that's definitely reasonable for next year. But, yeah, just kind of the rest of the chase of who emerges. And last year it was BYU, but I'm not sold that just because they brought everybody back that BYU is just going to go do that all over again. I think there's still a lot of question marks about them. They should feel great about where they are, but I don't think that they're just like, yeah, put them over Arizona and Houston and Arizona State and TCU and whoever else you might want to throw into that mix. So is there somebody that can go pull an ASU and derail Texas Tech a little bit? That's one of like 100 stories we could go into, like the new quarterbacks in the league, the coaching carousel when it comes to the league, like all that stuff's fascinating to me. So we'll talk about all of it over these coming months. But yeah, kind of the standard places, but that's where my interest is.
All right. Is there any chance the ACC can survive? I've seen a lot of rumors lately that West Virginia is wanting to move to the ACC. Of course, there's a lot of legal things tied up with that too. I don't know. I don't know what league names actually survive or they'll even use any of the league names if there's another level. I'm still one of those that doesn't think there's going to be a super league. It just doesn't mean there won't be some that are like either you're going to do this or you're left behind. I don't know if it's going to be so-called a super league the way most people think of like 32 teams or so.
Yeah, I saw this rumor. It comes from typically the places that just this sort of thing just sort of sprouts up with no real legs to it, in my opinion. And so I know why there's been the constant conversation about West Virginia and the ACC, but what position is the ACC in right now to be going and taking teams from the Big 12, really?
Well,
like if they're on the verge of maybe losing their best teams in the next 2 or 3 years, why would West Virginia be knocking down the door to go join that league?
Well,
when they're
because
about to
first
lose
of all,
whatever,
it's just a talk, maybe
Right.
speculation, message board, Twitter. But it's a question from a fan.
Yeah.
And look,
I'm not.
Oh, wait a minute. Who are you?
I'm the guy who had to go. I would like to swallow a bunch of nails right now.
Okay.
But I think, and I'm just going to tell everybody this. I did a video on this last year about expansion, like rage baiting or whatever they call it. Just absolute fluff out there. Just ask yourself a question: why does it make sense for them to leave a league whose teams are suing them, and other teams are watch that league sue itself, hoping that the other teams would win, so that they wouldn't have to get their hands dirty when they did it? Like, why would West Virginia go into there?
West Virginia does not want to go to the ACC.
Okay, well, the answer to that is actually easy, guys. The answer why in West Virginia fans would want to do that is because they want to go play Pitt. They want to go play those teams. They don't want to travel 5,000 miles for every game. So that's, from that standpoint, it makes sense.
They're already playing Pitt, but I get what you're saying.
It doesn't, as a conference, mate, yes. Yeah. So they would rather play those teams or have some version of those teams more than they do now, to have some closer to home rivalries, to have more of like, we're not on this island by ourselves, because guys, Orlando's not really all that close to us either. Like Cincinnati's better, but we're still not like a quick hop, skip and jump just over there. So from that standpoint, yeah, I bet you want to play Pitt as a conference team and you want to play Miami or whoever it is. But my whole thing when I stopped down there is, one, the last time I saw this story, and it was somewhat recently, it reminds me that I think the other part of it was that they were also going to go with TCU, which is just the most patently absurd thing that I could ever even dream of. Why TCU would leave a league with Baylor and Houston and Texas Tech to go join a league to, I guess, be with SMU, because they love them so much that they canceled the series a year ago because they love playing SMU so much that they look down on the ponies and canceled that series. And especially when, okay, I don't know how it's been presented, like I guess that kind of a thing for West Virginia, but if the plan is that they're holding on to Florida State and Miami and Clemson and those teams aren't going anywhere, okay, then I can see how they get a new TV deal because now they're secure. And you get maybe even a little bump because everybody stays where they are, and they go, you know what, so-and-so, we need a couple of teams like West Virginia, you would make sense. That's if everything falls perfectly into place for the ACC, where it typically hasn't, and as you pointed out, has teams actively throwing lawsuits and trying to find out the easiest path to get out of the ACC. So what version are you joining? The one where miraculously they suddenly make FSU, Miami, and everybody happy for the foreseeable future, and you land a TV deal, or the one where they're all gone, and you are not going to have a better TV deal than the Big 12.
They added Cal, Stanford, and SMU to their conference.
It's more likely that they would be able to steal Pitt and Louisville back,
of course,
than it would be for them to go.
Yes.
I would say this, and this is just me being a harsh jackass when it comes to internet people. 99.
We are internet people, Paul.
But like, yes.
Our audience is internet people.
Are you Ross Perot?
Yeah, 99% of realignment rumors are fueled by rage-baiting jerks.
Yeah, no, people who want to get followers.
That's what they're doing. They're just trying to get clickbait. That's all they are. And when it comes to West Virginia, in that, you also mentioned, Craig, what the fans would want, what the fans would want, what the fans would want. Let me also add this to realignment. None of this has been done because the fans want it.
No, of course not.
None of it has been done.
I was trying to explain why that makes sense for people to talk about. It makes sense for people to talk about because a lot of fans would like to see that.
But you know what? If you feel this and you would like to, if you run into E. Gordon Gee or, whoever the president is at your university, if you run in, to the athletic director of your university and you ask them, you're like, hey, I would really like us to play in the ACC. They'd be like, oh, that's cute. I mean, that's not what they're going to say, but they're not going. It doesn't matter, and it's also above the athletic director's head too. This is a school president's thing. This is a TV network's thing. And if the TV network called up and said, West Virginia, we'd like you in this conference, and this is how much more money, they will put him in the Pac-12 if that was the case. Like that's how it works. But Yeah, there's not. It's all. So
if the ACC wanted West Virginia at any point in the last 20 years, they could have gone and tried to get West Virginia, right?
Or I think West Virginia would have been a better grab for them than Syracuse. Or actually not Syracuse, Boston College, but they took Boston College because they wanted the Boston TV market.
Look,
and
the ACC has thumbed its nose at West Virginia multiple times before, so there's that to factor in. I will push back. I think there's some like we're just having a conversation. We're not saying breaking West Virginia's headed to the we're not doing that thing. But I do think there's a lot of just fun conversations out there. Shout out to my man Kuz. I think he had a realignment video here recently that I just watched. And so for West Virginia fans, it's been an ongoing thing for a while now because they are on an island and they don't necessarily feel like they're at home just yet. Now a lot of them have come to love the Big 12.
Ask Michael DeHart saying, "Don't forget about me. I love it."
Yeah. So there you go. So it's very interesting. I think that you got to make a determination though of what's presented as, hey, we're just talking here, and what's presented as sources say that this is happening, and if sources were correct on a couple of different places, then there'd be 24 teams in the Big 12 right now, and there's not. So take it for what it's worth, but the West Virginia thing, I can at least buy that for a second. The moment you tell me that TCU is going to go reunite with SMU and leave all the Texas schools and leave what's more money, that's just when you go, okay, yeah, that's just silly stuff that has no bearing in reality.
Why would Texas and OU want anyone coming from any conference? Is it I'm just using
for Texas Tech to join the SEC?
Yeah, because they left those teams because they didn't feel like they were too good. They kind of felt like they were better and too good for it.
If they wanted Tech to come with them, they would have asked.
Yeah, exactly.
Because remember,
and you wonder if there would just a thought. You wonder if there was realignment that we didn't know about, like we didn't in July of 21. If they were to do that again, or would they have not yet done it? Would Tech, with what they're doing now, have been more of the conversation?
I just don't. Yeah, that's a great question, and I asked Michael DeHart, whoever. I'm sure there's a number of people in our audience that love realignment talk, and I do too. We were all over the last Big 12 go-round, and anything that breaks one way or the other, I know that a lot of it sometimes that I come across, and I do know, is nonsense presented to the viewer. But there are things that are very much based in reality, and the ACC situation is one of those. And so, yeah, I just think the idea of a TCU even looking that direction is just preposterous. But I think for West Virginia, I think they're happy right now, could definitely be happier, but I think maybe the way that gets answered, guys, is you let this play out. I know nobody wants to do that, but you let it play out, and if the SEC decides in about a month from now, surprise, FSU and Miami are joining, then you start to see the ACC go,
oh, shit.
And then all of a sudden West Virginia's got friends that come join them, not the other way around.
By the way, from Kim, West Virginia is no more on an island than USC, UCLA, Oregon, Washington, Cal, Stanford, etc.
Yeah, they can all.
Well, technically, USC and UCLA have somebody right next to each other, so they're on an island
as
West
far
Virginia,
as... Yeah, because the next closest would be either Cincinnati or UCF. That's a lot more
I understand where he's coming from, but West Virginia, in comparison, is really by themselves, whereas you got two teams that are right there in the same city, and then, yes, it's a distance to Oregon and to Washington, but they've been playing each other for 100 years, so that's homely, at least, even if it's not distance-wise.
What was, when the SEC grabbed Missouri and A&M, what was the attraction at that time in grabbing A&M? Because that would have been prior to Johnny Manziel.
The state of Texas?
The state of Texas, yeah.
The Houston market.
Well, it was the whole state of Texas, because A&M's a gigantic school. They had no Texas teams. So, and for A&M, it was getting out from under the thumb of UT.
Yeah, it surely wasn't the resume.
Yeah, so no, it wasn't the resume, but also at the time, the SEC didn't want Texas because Texas was not in the frame of mind where they had to. You have to adhere to the SEC's groupthink, and Texas wasn't ready to do that.
And A&M's like, groupthink, that's what we do best.
yeah. So exactly, Craig, exactly. So they're like, yeah. And then they're like, listen, we don't like that we've been stuck here and that we're now just as big of a university and we have just as much money and everything that we do is headed off of the past by a school that we abjectly despise so much that we sing about them in our song.
And can't beat.
And then every time we get on the doorstep of flipping it, we screw something up. Yeah. So let's just go and get on the doorstep of flipping it with somebody else we don't care as much about so it doesn't sting as much. So they left, and then for the SEC, it was like, we've got this massive school in Texas that if they had some real direction in life, maybe they could be somebody. But you can't change your stripes until you really look inward, and I'm not sure that any school has the capability to do that often.
It really was not a hard decision for as much as sometimes A&M can be the butt of a joke for people in this state for one reason or another. They're also capable of sitting there and poo-pooing on a lot of other people, those same people, in a lot of different regards as well, because it is an incredible school, an incredible alumni base and passion and all of those things. It's just that sometimes I guess they don't win at a level that people feel like they're justified in acting a certain way, but regardless, like that's not a hard sell to the SEC and Greg Sankey. Like, okay, you haven't won a national title since 1939, or you're not the biggest school in your state or whatever, but you're still like 1B. You have a ton of history. You have 100,000 plus seat stadium. You have a ton of money. Like
the Houston market,
the Houston market, the Dallas market.
Yeah,
like that was easy. And then as you saw with their other their ad back then, I mean, yeah, I'm sure they pursued Missouri because of the fact that Missouri is a really good school, and I guess what you're citing the KC and STL metros. But I think what you really did was you got yourself a really solid branch of propaganda with the media degrees that roll through the state of Missouri. Like, you just spawned an entire factory line of new propagandists for the SEC movement.
Yeah, with journalism.
All of these journalists that come rolling off the Missouri pipeline, they're all now like they're going to start, spreading out, and so you had a lot of extra journalist coverage as well. Like, whether that was ever intentional or not, Mizzou's got a fantastic media school. So, those are no-brainers, and it's amazing the Big 12's even around to still be talking about realignment. Quite frankly, with the number of scares that they've had.
Cat with 9 lives, many different ways. By the way. Go ahead, Paul. You were going to say something.
This is not related, and I don't know. I was in there dealing with a crisis, and I don't know. This just came down 17 minutes ago. I don't know how long I've actually been out here, but Aiden Holloway has been removed from campus in the wake of his arrest. The school announced he's not going to be with the team as the University of Alabama Office of Student Contact investigates his case. He'll be off the team until he goes through the school's investigation process. So we'll see what kind of crack detectives they have on the case.
How long that takes, and you hope any kind of thing like that doesn't take long, but compared to other students that might be in the same situation, how long that normally would take.
In other news, Nate Oates has signed John Johnson from the G League, Oklahoma. No, I'm just kidding.
From the Seattle Sounders.
No, he can't do that this time around. We've established that. But I think that's probably what you had to do. It's a felony case, so I don't think you can just treat that like it's some PI or something.
You can't treat it like it's a murder case.
You weren't. No. Well, yeah.
A murder investigation.
Well, Nate Oates does have lawyers. We know that. They got lawyers on standby.
Yeah.
In all seriousness, no, that's an ugly charge with the big F word attached there. So we'll see what the future holds for Aiden Holloway. But I think that's the most prudent and logical move that Alabama could make. Is like, in the meantime, we got to put you to the side until we know more about this situation.
Rez, do you have that for me? I wanted to show this. I waited as long as I could. We have the top 5 and much more around the corner. Paul, I thought you would really enjoy this. This was prior to when Houston played in the semifinal game. Before he got into coaching, Willie Fritz worked different jobs. One of them in construction. He told a story of how he helped install 49 windows at Arthur Bryant's barbecue location in downtown Kansas City.
Like, I have seen every single one of those windows. Yeah. And Arthur Bryant's is number 4 on my Kansas City barbecue list. So if you're making a trip to Kansas City, it's one of the 5 places you should eat for barbecue for sure.
All right. We were all talking about realignment, and Michael Gaines was saying, That is his favorite part of college football.
Realignment? Yeah, for a lot of people it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's why you see some fly-by-nights trying to take advantage of that by increasing their clicks and views and viewers and stuff by just saying anything. Like, hey, heard Minnesota was going to join the just be careful of it.
I enjoy the discussion about it. It is my least favorite part about college football because I don't think it's been additive to the overall game because I think it's kind of ignorant of.
I think it's pretty clearly made it worse in a lot of ways.
Yeah. So it to me, like when he says that, it's my favorite thing about it. It's like when I don't know. I'm not going to use that analogy. That one's weird.
Don't go. I could just tell you were going to a very bad
like that,
spot.
but it's like one of those things where somebody's like, you know what I love? I love raw fish that's not even been prepared. I'm like, why?
No, I love the fact of what it's going to do to my stomach after I eat raw fish that's not been prepared.
I love it. I love the speculation part of it. I love talking about it, as I could have gone down a million different rabbit holes there. I don't love how obvious it became on how popular it is, though, because then I do feel like people started to take advantage of what was fun and then turned it into just some kind of bullshit, honestly, a lot of the time. And that's what I did not like, especially about this last round of realignment, where it coincided for the first time with YouTube, basically. So I think once people started to see like how much people love realignment, then it was just realignment 24/7 to the point where like we're just like, I don't care how many views. Like, we got to stop talking about it because it's ridiculous. Like, I can't talk about it anymore. We talked about it for like 2 years straight, and then everything happened, and then it's like, all right, breather, and it was on to like, all right, now the next thing, and it's like, all right, had to take a break from it, but now I think we are back at a spot where I am reinvested myself in following it more closely because there are signs on the wall that things could happen, but there is definitely an element of just an extra layer of, I think, just BS, I'll put it that way, that has kind of infiltrated some of it. And I just feel like things are being portrayed a way that they're not really. And I'm not that way with the audience, so that's all I'll say.
No, we're not, because if I wanted to add 10,000 clicks and views tonight, I could just go, hey, but it's, for example, when North Dakota State made their move, which was a very minor move, not for them or for the conference, the Mountain West, but when they made their move, immediately there's those who like jump in and start saying, this is the part I was talking about that leads to what's going to happen with Georgia Tech. And that's the part that gets it. Michael saying, I like the debates and the speculation about guessing who goes where next.
Yeah, I like all that too. I just don't like I guess I don't like positioning it as anything other than that. I don't like positioning it as though it's a report when it's not. It is just speculation and kind of throwing it out there. But I know that's how I guess you have to do it to get it how you want it.
Think about this, about a what if, and it was discussed in the chat room. What if Texas, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, and Tech had gone to the Pac-12? During that time when it was a little bit...
Well, the Big 12 would have died.
Absolutely.
It would probably be a different name by now. That was all very real and very close to happening, and it didn't turn out that way, obviously, because we're sitting here talking about the what if. But, yeah, the what ifs of stuff that actually was in the works that never ended up happening. That one in particular is, fascinating to go and delve through. And, you could do the whole segment on just what would that look like?
If Texas Tech, Texas, Oklahoma State, OU. I mentioned A&M as a part of that. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what happens to A&M. I guess they were in the Big Ten or something at that point. But, I think that would have killed the Big 12 for sure, and probably would have started the sort of downgrading of, like, I don't know if Baylor or some of the others that would have been left over at that point would have been able to, like, Baylor's not winning a national championship in basketball several years later, or winning multiple Big 12 titles in football and doing those things, because those would have been looked at totally differently because the Big 12 is not the Big 12.
Yeah, no, it would have been.
Their whole history is different.
And TCU wasn't even in the Big 12 yet.
They're not even going to get into the Big 12.
Yeah, they weren't
West
even
Virginia's
in.
not even get into the Big 12. So because there's not going to be a league probably to join, and it certainly wouldn't have been one that's on solid enough footing at that point with some great TV deal that you're like, yeah, man, ABC's ponying up millions for Iowa State and Baylor and K-State and Kansas, buddy. No, that wouldn't have, so yeah, everything would have been drastically different had that happened. And I think the first thing you could say with pretty much certainty is, yeah, the Big 12 would have died on the vine, probably been renamed, and probably had about 30 different teams coming and going through it over the last several years. So they are the league that does have 9 lives and just keeps on kicking somehow or another. They really are. And I think that because of what's happened this last go around, I think it's very logical to speculate and to try and see like what could happen with the ACC situation in particular. I just don't think sometimes it's portrayed like the Big 12's out on the hunt, and it's like you're maybe licking your chops, but you're not the one with like the weapon in your hand to go make the first move. Like you're waiting in the weeds to see what happens before you go and do anything of like super substantial.
You're out hunting and somebody else is hunting you and you don't even know it.
You're trailing the hunter, quite frankly. You're waiting for the scraps that will be left over.
I did not remember this, and this is from Kyle Visser. University of Houston had talked to this is from our chat room, had talked to the SEC after Tulane and Georgia Tech left, and were thinking about accepting an invite to become a part of the SEC. But Darrell Royal, this is how far back this goes, caught wind and extended an invite for Houston to join the Southwest Conference.
Yeah,
that pretty cool.
Who is the coach from Houston?
Yeoman.
Yeah, Bill Yeoman. When he got inducted into the Texas Sports Hall of Fame and in the Southwest Conference Hall of Fame in that wing, when we had that first induction, he told the story of we didn't know what we were going to do, and then he left out that part about the SEC because he was talking about the Southwest Conference. He was like, as soon as Darrell Royal called and offered it, he said, I covered the phone up and told the AD, Darrell Royal says we can be in the Southwest Conference. He's like, yeah, tell him we'll do it.
Yeah.
Tell him we'll do it.
It might have been as simple as that.
Tell him we'll do it. And he's like, I told him we'd do it. We hung up the phone. We worked all the other stuff later, but we didn't want to seem too eager.
Yeah, and they did pretty well.
I do. On the Big 12, the reason they stayed together and they've done it is because the schools and the fan bases care. They care about sports. They care about athletics, and they've done everything that they can to stick together. And a
lot of them are looking in a mirror at themselves when they look at each other.
Yes, they're very passionate. I think that's what distinguished them from the Pac-12 schools, that as far as that debate went, when you had that getting really kind of testy and almost like too personal, like there towards the end of like people reporting and getting just like, I don't know, like it became personal for some people, and that's a bridge too far in my opinion. But I don't know. I think. There's that element of that kind of, I think, as well, sort of just made the Big 12 even stronger, because then they were all like, what do you mean we're truck stop conference, or what do you mean we're this or that? And yeah, it's because they all care a great deal. That's the difference between them and the Pac. I think some fans of the new Pac schools that have joined, yeah, they wish they could still go to Cal Berkeley for a weekend trip because it's beautiful and it's awesome out there. But they would also tell you that the atmosphere for a football game or a basketball game is sure as hell a lot better in Ames, Iowa than it is in Berkeley, California. So I think that the newcomers have been great additions, and I think that it's just a conference that's been a weird setup all along, especially these last few years. But there is this care factor that they all have that bonds them, and also it's us or nothing, basically, which they've all learned at this point. Now, that's not going to stop WVU from feeling like it can go to the ACC, even though the ACC has historically never wanted them, and it would be the dumbest time ever to probably join that conference with all of the uncertainty. But at the same time, I'm sure if Texas Tech got the SEC invite, just like everybody else for that matter would say yes, they would say yes. So it's not like they're going to be together forever, promise rings and all of that. But while they are together, then, yeah, they're going to make the best of it that they can, and everybody's going to care a great deal and try to make it as badass and fun of a league as humanly possible. And I think you've seen that in basketball over the past few years, and especially this year with Arizona going and winning the league, it's just added to that mixture. So, yeah, you're bonded by a lack of options in some cases, but you're also bonded by a passion, at least for that one example. And, yeah, I love to talk realignment, be more than happy to talk about it. Just the way we present it's going to be a little bit different, I think, from maybe what you see elsewhere.
Think about this. A lot of you who may have just been recently joining us or whatever, but a big chunk of you, in July 5 years ago this summer, that's where you probably discovered us, because that's when the Texas OU story was broken by Brent Zerneman, and all of a sudden the chaos and what was going to happen, the speculation, even Bob Bowlesby somehow figured out a way for them to move into the next level without Texas and OU when that story popped.
And I also don't want to address things that, like everything that comes up as a rumor, because it adds fuel to some of the nonsense.
Oh, no, because someone can say, hey, I heard on 365 Sports, and it's that, no.
Well, I mean, I would never go out and say, like, this is unless I knew it was happening. But as far as, like, shooting down the report of another report of a report, like, no, I'm not going to, like, just on anything willy-nilly just be like, give it more legs than it deserves. Does that make sense? As opposed to something you're like, okay, it's coming from there, like, they don't ever talk about it. That must be something that's actually in the water. And then, yeah, I'll be quick to give it more legs like it deserves. But sometimes I just don't want to give something to something that's not what it appears to be.
It was fun, man. It was tough when the Texas and OU story popped, no question.
Well,
but
get ready.
It was fun the next 2 or 3 months to watch and have an absolute insight into what was happening, and a lot of people didn't believe it, and it happened, and that was really cool.
Yeah, and get ready, because I do think that for as much as that turned out to be way more chaotic than probably anybody anticipated it being originally, like just nobody saw Texas and Oklahoma other than their people jumping into the fray the way that they did. But then once they did, it was like, all right, now what? And we saw all of the aftershocks and how that worked out to the point of it nearly killed the Pac-12 after 100 years of being alive. It's still around, but it's got, like, it can't walk on its own. It's got, like, it's just got a lot of problems, and it's trying to fix those. But we know how that domino effect fell, and I do feel like whenever the next big domino falls that sort of starts the chain reaction, if that hasn't happened already, because maybe it was something that happened 3 years ago that sets off the chain reaction for the next one when that is. But I do feel like, yeah, it's going to be one for the record books, because it's going to be a sorting out of, I think, just a new era of college athletics that we've been talking about daily for the last 2 or 3 years about where all this is headed. I think that's where we're headed, is to whatever this is going to look like.
It's been more paper cuts, with all due respect to teams that have shifted. It wasn't like, holy crap, when that, I'll never forget that time. And it was right after we had left, a week or two after leaving Big 12 media days, where everything was good, just like even A&M and Missouri a week after that thing wrapped up. All right, are we going to do the top five?
Yes.
Top five, we have the quizzes, we have the polls, and more. I know.
How long have we been talking straight here? Like 50 minutes, I think?
A long time.
Yeah.
A long time. And we need to do a couple of commercials, and we'll come back to wrap it up. 365 Sports, but I want to let you know about QC Kinetics. Let me help you feel better, because QC Kinetics has helped me feel better for a long time, 4 or 5 years. Right after COVID, I had this ache in my hip, and I just could not seem to get better. No matter what I tried to work on, whatever I tried to do with stretching or working around the muscles, it just never got better. Shots in my lower back did not help the pain go away. And then I went and met QC Kinetics and had a consultation. And since that time, QC Kinetics has helped the pain slowly, methodically, and surely disappear. Played golf Saturday, Sunday, no back. I'm getting myself better and fit, and I've had any kind of like blowback from that. My hip feels really good. I don't have to take Advil or Tylenol or anything like that. QC Kinetics, it takes your natural biologics inside your own body, puts them back in your body after they draw blood, spin it, and then put it back inside of you where you hurt, whether it's your elbows or your hips or your back or your shoulders or your knees or your ankles or even your wrist. QC Kinetics. Go to QCkinetics.com. You see the numbers at the bottom of the page. A screen at 972-972-8610, 713-913-5285. Get better, feel better. Stop kicking the can down the road with steroid injections at QCkinetics.com.
At Allen Samuels Dodge in Waco, we're making a declaration of deals. And these deals are so big, even fans of the Dallas Cowboys think this might finally be the year. Drive home a new Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo for just $32,990, or a new Jeep Compass Latitude 4x4 for $29,990. Take $11,000 off a new Jeep Gladiator Sport, or choose 0% for 60 months. Or we pay your sales tax. Right now, no payments for 90 days. Happening now at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Pepperoni Magnifico. Pepperoni Magnifico. Marco's Pepperoni Magnifico. Classic and crispy cut pepperoni, 3 melty cheeses, all on our fresh made dough. And starting at just $12.99 for a large, it's no wonder Marco's was named America's favorite pizza chain.
When you play hard, sometimes you fall hard. Sports injuries require special treatment. At Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, our team of expert doctors provides athletes and active adults with comprehensive sports medicine care, diagnostics. Whether you're in high school, college, or beyond, we'll help you get back on the field. Call on the team physicians for Baylor Athletics. Call Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics.
This 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Financial Advisors, Ben Erlinson and Brad Wilson in Waco, and Cam Heathcott in Conroe, with an individualized approach to addressing your financial needs, including education, savings, planning for retirement, and protection strategies. Edward Jones Financial Advisors, making sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Now it's time for 365 Sports. This is Paul Catalina's Top 5.
Welcome into Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Flag and Anthem. Go to our website, 365sportsdeals.com, or to flagandanthem.com. And when you go to flagandanthem.com, type in the promo code 365sports, and you'll get a discount at checkout. Today, we are doing bracket observations, because the bracket was released yesterday, in case you missed it. But in the 24-hour news cycle, I'm sure that you've heard something about the NCAA men's bracket being released. Number 5, the East is a beast. You've got Duke in the East. You've got St. John's. You've got Kansas. It is unbelievable. UConn is in the East. The top 5 seeds, Michigan State is the 3 seed. The top 5 seeds are a who's who of college basketball blue bloods. Be it St. John's from the 70s and 80s, Kansas from forever, Duke from forever, Michigan State from Tom Izzo's time, so pretty much forever, and UConn from recently. Unbelievable top 5 seeds, and it's going to be tough with the seeds below them as well, but we should get some great matchups. Look, if everything goes chalk, that would be insane, the kind of matchups that we get, including some of the ones that we would see rematches of from earlier in the season that played in these big non-conference tournaments. Number 4, can anyone hang with Arizona? I watched a ton of the championship games of the conference tournaments. I've watched Arizona a lot this year. If Jaden Bradley's wrist isn't too bad, and even if it is, they're just so deep and they can hurt you with so many different players, whether it's Jaden Bradley or Toby Awaka or the superstar freshmen and Koa Pete and Braden Burries, and off the bench in all of the different ways that they can get you. It is going to be tough for anyone to hang with Arizona, who I actually think had a pretty reasonable claim to the number 1 overall seed. Obviously, we just talked about Duke. That's who it was. I think you can get to splitting hairs, but if you really made a case for Arizona and that top overall seed, I think it makes sense, especially given the fact that they just beat Houston again in the championship game and were undefeated against the 2-seed Cougs this season. That's a pretty damn big deal. Number 3, and not to slant this all towards the Big 12, but for now, let's talk about Iowa State and their favorable draw. I love what they have ahead of them. Love some of the things that have happened around. They've got some injuries in their side of the bracket. I don't love injuries, but for Iowa State, they should be plenty happy that they have the draw that they do. Inside of their bracket is Michigan, who didn't win their conference championship game as the 1 seed. Texas Tech, who has suffered a lot of injuries, including their best player in JT Toppin. Alabama, who may or may not have their second leading scorer because he just got arrested in a pot bust in Alabama. Tennessee, who's up and down. A 3 seed in Virginia, who's bounced back nicely. And presumably a second-round game versus Kentucky, who has been schizophrenic this year. Look, that's not to dismiss, say, Santa Clara this weekend, but likely, if it goes chalk, they could be playing Kentucky on Saturday, which I think, given the defense that they play and the style of basketball they play, is a very favorable matchup. Iowa State should be in the Sweet 16 based on Tennessee State and the winner of Kentucky and Santa Clara. They got a great draw, especially for the first weekend. Number 2, Nebraska will get their first tournament win in school history. That will happen. They're in the South region also, and all these are all bears of a bracket, but they will get it. Now, they would play the winner of Vanderbilt and McNeese. Both those teams are very good. Vanderbilt red hot right now. So I don't know if they'll get their second win, but I do think that they beat Troy and get their first. Fred Hoiberg's done a fantastic job there at Nebraska. They will get that first win. The second win, we'll see. And number 1, Kelvin Sampson has a chance at vengeance. I love that the committee set this up, and I love that they set it up for the Final Four and not the championship. Again, everything would have to go essentially chalk, but the 2 best teams in their region, the South, are Florida and Houston. That was the championship game last year. Houston fans think they probably should have won that game. They absolutely could have won that game. Florida just closed out fantastically and won the national championship last year. The Final Four is in Houston, for God's sakes. If not now, when, Kelvin? It is absolutely time. I think he's got a whole lot of people who aren't Houston Cougar fans, me included, kind of rooting for him to get his shot if he gets it, because there is not a coach that is more accomplished without that ring right now in college basketball than Kelvin Sampson, and he has a chance to beat the Gators to get into the championship game at home or in his home city to do it. Absolutely rooting for that scenario, because of my other biases. No one trusts the Gators in my household, but that would be an amazing story and continue some of the great history of college basketball of when you get rematch chances in the postseason year over year. I just love that scenario. I love that possible storyline. I hope that we get it, although I will say this, St. Mary's and Texas A&M or Texas A&M on Saturday will be challenging for Houston because of the style of basketball they play, but the Cougs are really, really, really good. And if there were 5 number 1 seeds, they would have been the 5th number 1 seed. It was so close, I think, with them and the other 4 number 1 seeds. Arizona over them for sure, but I could make an argument that they deserve to be in over Florida and Michigan as 1 seeds. But it is what it is. That's going to do it for the top 5. Spin the wheel! What's the most money you've spent on a ticket to a game or most money you would spend on a game ticket? Oof, the most I've ever spent is probably about $600. And
single ticket?
Yes. So a couple years ago on Thanksgiving, I paid to go to a Cowboys game for the first time in my life. And it was about $600 a ticket, maybe $750 with the fees. It was a lot. And that was up in the bleeders, mostly with Raider fans, so it was not as fun as it should have been. And they lost that game too. But that's about the most I'd pay. Depending on the event, I would go to 1 comma. Like, not high 1 commas, low 1 commas, 1,000, maybe 1,200, depending on the situation.
I'll spend maybe a couple $100. I haven't spent big to try to get tickets for much of anything. I'm content just sitting up in the nosebleeds most of the time or not going at all and watching it on TV. So I haven't really tried to spend big money to go see certain things like that. So, yeah, maybe a couple $100. And then the most I would spend, I mean, God, it depends on what money am I making. Am I making $1 million? I'd spend $5,000 on a ticket. Am I making $50,000? I'd spend $50 on a ticket. I mean, that would have a lot to say, but if just all things were equal, then I don't know. I'd have a hard time seeing myself finding any event. Like, I wouldn't care about spending 50 G's to be like front row at WrestleMania. I think that's absolutely absurd.
If you had $1 million, would you still not do it?
No, because screw them. Yeah. Because that's too expensive. Yeah. Screw you.
Yeah.
At that point, you're being greedy, and I'm allowing you to now set this precedent of charging that much money because I'm willing to pay for it when you should never charge that much money to begin with. So, no, F you. I'm not going to pay that much money for a ringside ticket to WrestleMania, which is actually something they're going through right now. But similarly, I would not pay tens of thousands to sit 50-yard line at the Super Bowl surrounded by, like, corporate executives who are not even a fan of the game practically. Like, I would have to have a real genuine reason to, like, this is my favorite team, my favorite player. I'm never going to be able to go to a game again. I'll splurge, but it would take something like that.
We were legitimately as close to breaking up Ticketmaster and Live Nation as we've ever been, and the government let them settle the lawsuit, which is just terrible news for all that. So
I've told the story about the Masters when I invited my father-in-law and my dad to Augusta National, and then I was going to pay, and it was expensive. I think it was like $1,700 each for a 4-day pass, and then everything exploded. I never got the tickets. I did, and I had to pay about 3 times as much. Not bragging. They were in town. They were in from Tampa and also from Dallas, and so I spent that. And man, that was a lot. But for them to have that memory was also worth every second. All right, now let's get to the quizzes. The quizzes.
Which university's home court holds the record for largest on-campus college basketball attendance ever, thanks to this unique venue status?
Carrier Dome?
Yeah, I would think it's the Carrier Dome because it's huge. I'm saying Syracuse. You and I are in agreement on there, Smokey.
Sure.
Yeah, it's not Cameron Indoor because that place is little. Vanderbilt, no. Stanford, I have no idea where they play basketball. Just off the top of my head. But I'm going to say the Carrier Dome. It's massive. So they also play football. Yeah, and it is Syracuse, yes. 35,642 on February 23rd, 2019, when they played Duke. This is possibly because the JMA Wireless Dome, formerly the Carrier Dome, hosts the football and basketball teams, allowing the court to be set up in a way that accommodates massive record-breaking crowds that standard arenas can't touch. Syracuse's job is open. I'm calling Jerry McNamara.
Okay.
I'm calling Jerry McNamara as the next head coach.
Absolutely.
I have no inside information on that other than schools love their own, and he's a Syracuse legend. So they love him there at Syracuse. Okay.
Most ever in attendance, 35,642 in that year that you're talking about. That's a bunch of people.
Yeah,
football has gotten as high as 50,000.
Yeah. By the way, I've not been on one Syracuse message board, but I guarantee you there's 70 threads about Jerry McNamara because he's in the tournament this year as well. Okay, next trivia question: which Hall of Fame goaltender famously demanded a trade while still standing on the bench during a humiliating 11-1 loss? Was it Patrick Waugh, Martin Brodeur, Dominic Hasek, or Ed Belfour?
Belfour was kind of a quirky dude.
Yeah, this one's a little outside my wheelhouse.
Me too.
A little bit. I don't remember. Gosh, Patrick Waugh was with a couple of different teams, though.
I won't even tell you I don't remember. I have no earthly I don't even have a recollection of this being a thing at all. So I don't even have I don't remember. I don't remember this event whatsoever. So, yeah, if you said standing on your head, that actually would have clicked more than standing on the bench. So I don't know where to go with this one.
Smokey, you said Ed Belfour.
I have no. It's flip a coin or a four-headed coin. Ed Belfour was kind of a quirky guy. We'll just say him.
Okay, let's say Ed Belfour.
Patrick
Waugh.
Yeah,
he was. See, I don't think of him with the Canadians. I think of him with the Avalanche. And so, yeah, he was left in net for 9 goals during a blowout loss in 1995 to Detroit. After finally being pulled, he walked past head coach Mario Tremblay and told told team president Ronald Corey, "It's my last game in Montreal." He was traded to the Colorado Avalanche 4 days later and led them to a championship that very year. Yeah.
He's a great one. All right, now to the poll results from Andrew Valade. Which number 1 seed will be eliminated first? Defending champions at 42%.
Yeah, I think that's because Houston's in their bracket. I think that we're in their region. Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with the way that this shook out just because of the difficulty of that. Florida's been red hot, though, but did get kind of stumped by Vanderbilt. I just have a hard time seeing anybody hanging with Arizona. I really do. I think they're going to win the whole thing. They're just so deep and so good.
You got 9 guys averaging, I think, 9 points or more per game. Yep. And some clutch players, too.
Yeah.
All right, next one. Poll question. Who will face Team USA in the World Baseball Classic Final?
Viva Italia, baby. I think it's Italy. They're just kind of a team of destiny.
My brother-in-law is convinced that Italy is going to win the whole thing. I'm not ready to go there. I say Venezuela, but I don't know enough about the pitching on both sides. I do know this: Italy is 75%, if not lowballing it, Americans with Italian heritage. So I actually have come across some people who think that Italy's just randomly got a bunch of really good baseball players all of a sudden, and they're wondering what happened. It's no, what you're missing is that it's just American dudes playing for Italy is what it is in most cases. But they're a great story. Be hard to live up to last night's game, but I think this will be a fiery crowd as well. And, you got the Venezuelans in Miami that'll be going nuts. And I'm sure Italy's picked up some fans along the way these last couple of weeks as well. So I'll go Venezuela just because I feel like I know more about them. But, I wouldn't be surprised at this point if Italy were to win.
Yeah. What would have been the more raucous crowd? Venezuela, Dominican Republic in the championship game?
Oh, for sure.
I can't even imagine.
Miami.
Oh,
yeah, God. Absolutely. I was really impressed. I didn't get to talk about it with you guys, but the bullpen for USA last night. Yeah. Paul Skeens was great too, but the bullpen last night for Team USA was great. They have far less 100-mile-an-hour throwers. I thought that those are the 2 best lineups pound for pound. I think Venezuela's third that played last night in USA and the Dominican Republic. Venezuela's really, really good. I think Italy might have a better starting pitching tonight than they do, but it's going to be a bullpen game because Aaron Nola's not going to throw a complete game for Italy. I mean, they're not going to let him. They've got pitch counts and all these different things. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. It's going to come down to the bullpens.
Yeah, I mean, and that's fair to point that out about the bullpen. I didn't mention them in talking about it. But, yeah, they deserve a lot of credit, some really big Ks and big outs. Didn't leave it all to Skeens to have to do it all by himself. Had some big defensive plays. And, yeah, that was an awesome win for Team USA. Hated the final strike call just because if it would have had no controversy, it would have just been perfect. It would have been a perfect event. It would have just been a great game, and all right, Team USA wins and you move on, but you're going to have that detractor, and I'm not letting that bother me by any means because, again, it's if there wasn't that one call, that one holding, then I kind of feel similar to that in some ways.
It can happen either way.
And I'm not that type of a fan to begin with, so it was a fun game.
I feel genuinely bad for Paul Skeens, though, because now – that he's had this World Baseball Classic experience in the roster he's had, he's just going to watch guys walk into the dugout and go, "You're not Aaron Judge."
Well, actually, the funniest thing I saw was so Paul Skeens still doesn't get any run support.
Yeah, exactly.
Still, even on Team USA's All-Star team, he still can't get anybody to put some runs up for him. It's crazy.
There's always a pitcher. No matter, there's always a guy that has a really good ERA, fantastic, consistent. But for whatever reason, he gets no run support.
I guess they're all just jealous of his girlfriend.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much, Rez, Garrett Ross. Also to Andrew Valade. We appreciate everybody who's been a part of this today. Also our great sponsors. Thank you to our audience that watches us however you do. For Craig and Paul, I'm David Smoak. Stay warm wherever you are or get cooler in some places because there's a heat wave. I'm David Smoak. Good night.